The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
stationed atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies.
It's Tuesday, June 19th, Wednesday, June 20th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North, on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong, broadcasting to you nightly on the SOR radio network, including the Fringe FM, and we welcome you to tonight's show. You can also watch us live on Periscope.tv every Monday through Friday night, and if you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that red subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we got a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. We welcome you to the Tuesday night edition of Spaced Out Radio here on the West Coast. It's sunny, it's shiny, and darkness here is still 2.5 hours away. Because when you live this north, the sun just never wants to go down. Unless it's wintertime, and then it just never wants to come up. The hot button topic right now happens to be President Donald Trump's Space Force announcement yesterday. In the Donald asking for the immediate creation of the United States' 6th military branch. Is this about weaponizing space? The start of creating some sort of civilization on the moon or beyond? Or could this be about aliens? With the knowledge of what's going on, we bring in the great-granddaughter of President Dwight Eisenhower, as Laura Eisenhower joins us for the first time in over 3 years on this show. I will take some sort of issue with that because that's just way too darn long. Laura has had an amazing history that also includes recruitment into a Mars colony. We're going to get into that tonight. She is well adversed in the secret space program, so let's see where this goes. In hour number 3, of course, at the bottom of the hour, Everett Themer from The Encounter Online will be here to join us for the news of the day with The Encounter. Laura, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. It's been way too long. How you been doing?
I've been doing great. Thank you so much for having me back.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. What have you been up to? I mean, it's only been like 3 years since you've been on this show.
Oh, gosh. Oh, what a question. Wow, yeah, lots of life changes. Got married, moved to Montana. Have 2 19-year-old twin boys. I'm launching into life. Been to a lot of conferences, just a lot of conferences that I've already spoken at, going back and returning and connecting with everyone and working on my book. Yeah. Lots of personal changes, but, things have been pretty steady and consistent as far as, my work goes. I do sessions for a living during the day and work with people, with their astrology charts and helping them to tune into, what they're really made of to help them step into their power. Yeah, that's probably the last 3 years. But yeah, the personal stuff has been the hugest.
When you go through personal change like that, it does put a lot of things on the back burner. You have been quite an advocate and quite a vocal voice in the community about the secret space program, about consciousness, about Mother Earth, Gaia, whatever it wants to be. Has that taken away from your mission and what you feel you need to do?
What, my personal changes? No. I mean, some of it might die down a little bit. And I look at it as there's a greater timing in the universe. I mean, if anything were to take a back seat, I would probably get my book out because I've been so freaking busy. I'm in a just really protected and safe place. So I think it helps me to do what I do more effectively. And no, it doesn't take a back seat because the partner I'm with has been following me since 2010. And I was his go-to person as far as information, truth. So I've got massive support on my side, which is great. If it was, somebody that was like, what is all this? And it was, somebody only able to embrace certain aspects of me, there's no way it would work because I'm full throttle. You know what I mean? Yes.
Well, that brings up an interesting question that, I wouldn't think to normally ask you, but, when you're in a position of what you are and of some, popularity out there, how difficult is it to find a partner who can accept everything?
Well, that's kind of how it all came together. I was in a really difficult situation. I'd just gone through a horrific public breakup, and I was really just dealing with a lot of targeting while also having to come to terms with that change in my life. And this person was actually a client and was reaching out to me and, wondering are you okay? She could tell something in my voice and started asking me questions. And, and I have friends like that too, that just kind of come out of nowhere and say, hey, we can tell you're having a really hard time. There was a period where I had to cancel a lot of things because I'm a person of integrity. I'm not going to give a person a reading if I'm going through a lot of stuff, but that's also my livelihood and how I support my kids. So, it's hard, but it's not hard. There are people out there that really, just connect on a soul level. They're part of the mission. The information changes their life. They feel this, deeper respect. They don't expect you to be perfect. They know what this kind of path comes with, attack and criticism and, challenges. So the partner I'm with, was completely on board and beyond anybody that I know was, he felt like I have to go pull her out of this. And it wasn't even for a relationship. It was because he knew, Laura Eisenhower should not go down the tubes and be destroyed. I need to help her. And then I was 2 days after we got together, smitten, even without, that being an expectation. But no, it is hard. And I think, it's quality, not quantity. People will come and go as far as how they resonate with your information, but then there's those real soul connections that have your back and see who you are, and they don't walk away.
Laura, one of the questions I want to ask you tonight, it revolves around your family, because obviously you are the great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower, as we said off the intro of the show. And for a lot of people who may not have heard you speak before, I mean, that's a very formidable name in the United States of America. I mean, even us here in Canada know who Eisenhower was, and President Eisenhower, and, you know, the heroics of World War II that he performed with his soldiers in the battlefields of Germany and around the world. How much pressure has there been on you, considering the lineage, to keep quiet over everything that you have talked about? Because you have talked publicly about the secret space program, Mars, consciousness, so many topics that maybe a lot of family members or people outside of your position saying, what the hell is Laura doing?
I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, it's impossible. I mean, the pressure to keep quiet doesn't really exist, because that's just not going to happen. I've been like this since I was a kid. It's pretty much the reason I was born into this family. I think the pressure comes through just needing to handle everything about his administration, almost like I'm the one that did it or didn't do it, or, or people maybe, I don't know, thinking that I'm trying to leverage the name. Lots of misunderstandings, like, oh, you must have a trust fund. It's like, no, we're not an Illuminati family. We all work our butts off. And I was always afraid, gosh, my family's just going to be really upset and I'm going to be ostracized, but I'm prepared for that because I'm here for truth. But it just so happens I have an incredibly loving and supportive family, and I think they're just relieved that somebody like me is putting this information out there, because they know it needs to be put out there. But, back in his administration, 1947, these laws were put in place by the NSA. The ramifications of speaking about this kind of stuff was major. But mostly for the people that had agreements or contracts, or they were already a part of some sort of project or program or group, like MJ12 or maybe the Jason Scholars. Or it was like really difficult for anything to come out. I mean, we see what happened to Phil Schneider, William Cooper, and Eisenhower had like 8 heart attacks. And when I bring this stuff up to family, they don't really want to go there, but they give me so much support. They have my back in ways that they never really did before. I think they were kind of more worried about me, because I was internalizing a lot of this, because I would try and share it, but it's like, gosh, is this really what's been happening? I was kind of opening their eyes, but when they saw that a lot of people in the public were resonating, they're like, okay, she's not totally nuts. Let's take a breath. But I don't think they can completely dive into it, but they are just full of love. And it's just, nice to be raised in this family to be able to validate the fact that, there's no ritual abuse. It's not Illuminati. We're not driven by power and greed. All of us, I think, just what I've noticed is we just have this incredible love for humanity, and we see the greater potential of the human spirit. And this hierarchy system of the government and, what we know beyond just 3D reality, like demystifying all this crap is definitely what I came to do. And, definitely exposing things that they weren't able to and Eisenhower wasn't able to. So there's a hidden sort of, but also verbal respect that I never expected.
Just curious, you say your family has been very supportive of what you are doing and the message that you are creating for yourself. And it is a very strong image that you are having to portray, because there is a lot of factors that are played in this that most people do not want to either admit or acknowledge exist. Why haven't any more of your family members come out on this? Is it the shock of just wanting to be silenced? They're just too embarrassed? They just don't feel the need to? Why would that be?
I know. Good question. I ask myself that. And I've definitely gone to enough family gatherings and slipped out a lot of this kind of stuff. And there's a curiosity there, but there's also, I think more the embarrassment is, why don't we know all this? Like, he's our grandfather, or this is, when I was hanging out with Ike's son, I would go there every year to Thanksgiving, and I would try and open up these conversations. And I think there's almost an intimidation about it, because, they're right in the heart of his administration. how could they not be in the know about all these hidden factors, you know? And there's also that fear. Maybe some were in the know, but they knew, like, oh my gosh, the threats, the ramifications, you know, jail time, fines, murder, you know. I think there's a part of them that knows what comes along, what the price is for being vocal. And so there's been a curiosity, but I think there's also like a confusion, like, wow, you know, all of these family members are authors. They've written incredible books about war history and what took place. But even Ike's son, he's like, you know, I'm a hippie at heart. He leaned over to me. He's like, you know, I only tell the war stories because they have to be told, but nobody's like into war, and just absolutely like it hurts. John S.C. Eisenhower, Eisenhower's son, is one of the few people in the presidential bloodline to actually fight in a war. But he's got this other mentality that's all about peace, all about unity. And so they see that part of it, but I think the difficult aspects are all the stuff that's been hidden from society has also been hidden from family members. So how is it that I'm getting in touch with it? Well, if I didn't get recruited to go to Mars in 2006, I wouldn't know a whole lot more than they do. But I just ended up being brought into something that I could validate versus just searching on the internet and seeing all these things that I think they have discernment about. It's a whole nother thing when you're face to face with it. And I think that really opened their eyes because, you know, I'd be staying with my mom at the apartment and I'd be meeting one of the defectors from the Mars recruiters to get, you know, information and to get clarity. And my mom's like, oh my God, Dan Smith, you know, advisor to these secret groups in the CIA is meeting my daughter downstairs. Okay, so she's not lying. I mean, it's not like they thought I was lying, but it's kind of like, well, we know she used to party a lot, so it could be like some kind of glitch in her consciousness. But, you know, they started to really see, wow, you know. And then my mom realized, like, I got to have my daughter's back because she knows that I'm, you know, kind of in a dangerous situation here.
Are there rules handed down generation to generation about how a president's family is supposed to act?
Well, I mean, I think in the Illuminati bloodlines, I mean, it's not even rules. It's like multi-generational mind control and abuse and indoctrination. And, you know, you're basically groomed and trained to be a certain way. You know, and so we're kind of an unusual family, like, that got pulled into the mix. I mean, it's a humble farming family. The origins are not, you know, this whole sweetest juice stuff. It doesn't even matter because I'm not, you know, we're all one as far as I'm concerned, but we're all diverse too, and we need to accept diversity and find harmony and oneness within it. But, you know, we're talking like Anabaptist, sort of like even Amish type energies. Like, I mean, this is sort of the bloodline history of the Eisenhowers. It's just very humble. So the rules, I think, are very different, but when you get into that system, yeah, these laws are in place. All of a sudden you're dealing with hidden shadow government, right? I mean, here he was general of the Second World War trying to defeat the Nazis. Next thing you know, he's president and Project Paperclip, and the whole war that he thought, or others thought he won, or not him, everybody else that he was, you know, helping to empower, and that they're the real heroes. This massive infiltration took place, you know, and then there's that silencing and the ramifications of speaking out. So I can't even imagine, you know, being witness to all that and then all of a sudden being in a position of power and you can't even tell people, you know, what you're grappling with, what you have to negotiate still with the Nazis, what you're dealing with as far as the off-planet influence. And it stressed him to the core. I mean, why would he have 8 heart attacks? And the thing is, by the time, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but by the time the extraterrestrial or exopolitical issue came around, you know, to him, they considered it a surrender. It wasn't even a real treaty. The treaties had already been in place. The ET government treaties, you know, first began in 1926 and then really started to take hold in 1933 in the Roosevelt administration. And then, of course, we see Truman with these 3-letter organizations popping up. And by the time he came in, after trying to defeat all of this, he's dealing with these off-planet entities that are behind it. So it's like, oh my gosh. So the rules, you know, are not so much ingrained in the family or the bloodline. It's more the things that have put the pressure and the control mechanisms in place that, you know, have really compromised a lot of really well-intentioned people from being able to do much. And that's why, you know, we're grateful for his final speech because it gave us window into what he was dealing with, and folks like William Cooper, of course, and other whistleblowers that, didn't make it. So we give a lot of thanks, because where would we be today without those voices? I mean, these mind control technologies are so powerful. And yes, if you're a conscious being, it's not going to affect you as much. But if we didn't have something to refer to in our history to even know that this sort of infiltration is happening, we might feel very lost. Like, is this me? What is this? What is this thing? We're trying to progress on our spiritual path, but then we get psychically attacked. And then we take it personally like, oh, we're just not spiritual enough. When really there's dark technologies that are trying to completely throw us off of being able to do it with grace and ease. We can't just sit there in a lotus position like, oh, now I'm just floating in ether and ascended. It's like, whoa, what is all that? Like getting bombarded with, weaponry and, all these things that, and it's the same thing with the news, like as a collective. Every time we're about to take a leap in consciousness, there's always some new thing to be outraged about or upset about or pissed about, and if we can utilize it and work with it without falling into the story, because a lot of it is just there to just separate us and frustrate us, we'll be fine, but we got to have sort of that X-ray vision.
At any point, have you been told to keep quiet, to shut up, to stop your momentum, or your speaking aloud about what happened from everywhere from aliens to the mind control programs, the Greada Treaty, or whatever it could be? Because, I mean, if there were rules in place set, whether it's by the Illuminati or, coming from a president's family, I think the public would like to know what those rules may be. And if you were forewarned.
Oh, yeah, but I'm one of those, like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, like, do I listen to authority? Have I ever? And it actually fires me up, Anything that tries to control me is, like, in for quite the reaction. And, some people say I don't really believe in what you do because you would be dead. How the hell are you still alive? Well, it takes a lot to be able to dodge, I guess you could say, the bullets. The targeting, the dark rituals that are designed, for certain individuals to stop them. I get death threats and, but I'm really combative and I'm just like, yeah, well, I'll reincarnate even more pissed off. What are you going to achieve here? When they see that you don't have a fear of death or whatever they're trying to wave in front of you to intimidate you, to shut you up, and you just kind of fire back and are just like almost laughing at it, that frequency, can kind of, and yeah, I mean, I always, I don't know. I don't know how long I'm going to be here because of what I do, but I'm still here. And hopefully I'll finish my book before anything happens. But I do feel protected. I mean, I guess the rules are different with somebody like me because they already know I don't listen to rules. So they manipulate me like they did with the Mars recruitment. Let's put a partner in front of her, somebody that she'll fall in love with, and then she'll go to Mars with him, right? So there's a whole different sort of way of intimidation or getting me to do what they want because they profile us on a psychological level. They have technologies where they can track us in past lives. They use the looking glass technologies to kind of track me and my association with this particular person that they used as bait because it's like, okay, if she already has an affinity with this person, of course she's going to, do whatever he wants, and she's vulnerable. She's got children, and her husband, her previous husband, the father of her kids, isn't here anymore. And, we created that traumatic storyline. So they constantly create trauma to be able to kind of get in there and give you what they think you need in order to get you where they want to be. And I just saw through it and didn't go for it. So it's not so much, well then, yeah. So I blew the whistle, right? So a lot of the people that were involved with recruiting wanted to befriend me, to kind of control what I was saying so that we could all be buddies, and they wanted to do videos with me. And we're talking, this is the aviary. We're talking, people like John Alexander, Ron Pandolfi, Hal Puthoff, Jack Sarfati. And I'm not saying they're all bad because there's a lot of compartmentalism, but they were like, oh my gosh, how did we not convince her to do this? Like, what do we do? I mean, you can't really do death threats from their side, but they certainly can have plants and people that intimidate me and give me that kind of thing, because if it comes through them, they're already high profile. They can be busted. Oh, this person, this scientist, this physicist they all have those cover careers. He just threatened me, right? But if they have plans, if they have people that come and just harass me, that's been their tactic.
I got told by Grant Cameron, Lorian Fenton, and a couple others, welcome to the club, because when I had John Alexander on back in January, he actually screamed at me twice and gave me a little bit of a tirade twice during the show, during his interview. So apparently that's for the norm when he doesn't like a question. So I feel like I'm one of the club with him now.
Right? Like, you mean on, like, sort of not totally, like, on the same page?
Well, apparently he just likes to yell at people. Apparently,
interesting.
The short temper. He's got that short temper. But nonetheless, we had a pretty fun interview with him.
That's cool. You know, I don't brand any of these people as evil or bad. We've been dealing with patriarchy. People have been tasked with certain missions. And as far as they're concerned, it's probably something that they feel proud of. And if it gets challenged, they're going to get angry because they've invested so much of themselves into it. They might be convinced that whatever alien technologies that they're using connected to mind control is necessary because we need to steer humanity on this timeline, and it's for their betterment that we steer them onto this timeline, because when humans have the freedom of thinking, look at what big mess we get into. And that's part of the illusion, is convincing us that when we're allowed to create and be free on our own accord, that we can't, like, progress on a positive timeline that benefits all. And that's part of how they're programmed. Oh, no, we got to use this mind control technology. We got to go to Mars. We got to do this. And maybe New World Order is important because, you know, look at all this chaos. But it's like, well, do you guys see the lineage and the origins of this all that has led to, you know, creating this belief so that, you know, I mean, the partner that recruited me felt like he was a hero, like he was actually saving the human race, getting a few of us to Mars. And I'm like, well, what about the rest of humanity? Why aren't they in the know? Why can't we tell them? Well, you know, that's for later, but we just got to go to Mars. And it's like, in the event of a cataclysm, it's like, okay, well, let's look at the different technologies that create superstorms, HARP technologies, and what are chemtrails all about? Like, you know, they're all being duped, a lot of them. And so I think deep down, most of these souls, you know, are well-intent, have good intentions. But we got, you know, these other things that have mastered the ability to, I mean, it's psychological warfare. So, I mean, I have tons of forgiveness for those guys. You know, I think they can kind of mellow out on the kind of dominant sort of traits of, you know, because nobody wanted to listen to me. It's just like, oh, she's just some silly woman. I'm like, well, maybe sometimes, but yeah, no, I came into this for a reason. And, you know, so that was a big red flag for me. Plus, I was being prepared since I was a kid to stay on Earth and stay with Gaia and help us in this ascension window period. And, you know, it's worth everything to me to give my all to it instead of go off and be protected or have that illusion that somebody says I'll be protected and then I become a slave on Mars and I'm being used to breed or something horrible or my creative energy is being used. And it's not worth taking that risk if I'm not being heard. And that's the big red flag. You know, if we can't all be in a council and figure out how to take care of the planet and take care of humanity and do these other things, which makes sense. Of course we want to explore other planets. Of course we want to protect the human genome in the event of catastrophe. But, like, you know, all the different red flags show up when it's like, okay, my partner just got a phone call and disappeared for 3 days and he doesn't remember where he went. You know, and I'm listening into all this and I'm like, he was given some code over the phone and he's been gone. He doesn't even remember. So I'm like, then I started to really learn about, you know, alters, trauma-based mind control, how they use different individuals to, you know, do missions. Because when he found me, he later, you know, confessed to me that I was a mission. I thought I was just meeting somebody that wanted to go to Mars. And because I was dating him, he was like, well, come along with me. But it was actually, he was tasked with picking me up to make sure I would go. And that was like all they wanted from him. Make sure she goes. Just pull her in. And yeah, so it took a lot of processing because I wasn't well-versed. I mean, I knew that there was dark agendas. I mean, I was well-versed enough to be able to begin to really look deeply at what was going on and who these people were and research, not just be like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll go to Mars. It's for my protection because, yeah, all these cataclysms. Oh, yeah, because I've been watching all these movies of the world coming to an end. It's like, no, you can't mind control me. But they thought, oh, we can heart control her. Let's just put a partner in front of her because she's like a Libra freak, right? It's all about love. Whatever. Mm-hmm. I got a lot of, I'm not saying that if you're not a Libra, you're not all about love, but they're always trying to find where is the weak point. And they're looking at it as a collective. How do we target the whole of humanity? But then they have specific things for specific individuals.
Laura, you mentioned Mars a number of times here already on the show, and we're only like 24 minutes into this. So I was going to save the whole Mars topic for a little bit later, but let's get into it right now in regards to it. Explain why Mars keeps coming up in this conversation, because for people who have heard you for the first time tonight on the show, they may be like, what the hell is this lady talking about? Let's get to it.
Oh,
How did you get it?
Well, you mentioned it.
Go ahead.
Right. Well, you mentioned it in the intro that she had been recruited to go to Mars. And when you asked, like, how's your family dealing with, all the stuff that you're talking about, the one and main thing that would probably be the most difficult would be my recruitment to Mars. So I could only answer that question honestly, because my parents, my family wouldn't care. Like, oh, she's talking about ascension. She's talking about Gaia. She's talking about consciousness. It's like, that's harmless. Because you were saying, like, how are you getting away with talking about what you're talking about? So not to, I didn't mean to jump too far ahead, but there was no other way I could answer it without leaving an important piece out. Yeah, and I know it's difficult for people. And I don't want to share too much too quick and blow too many lids off people's heads when, sort of like you want to kind of warm up the muscles before you do deep tissue massage, right? But that's the only way I can really answer the questions, because the family support I've gotten is because they began to take me seriously, and those are examples. Because that was the most pinnacle thing that could have happened. Because they've always known, like, I'm an astrologer, I'm metaphysical, I'm an out there person, but I'm also grounded and connected with the earth. I have a background in wilderness expedition leadership. So, that's what they might think is woo-woo, or, oh, she's just like, one of those nature girls, or, spiritual people, which they might relate to. Where it really got weird was the Mars stuff. So that's kind of why I brought it in as quickly as I did.
And I think that's fine, but let's introduce people to your story about Mars. How did you get approached about this? How did this whole situation happen?
So in 2006, a little bit before that, I was just trying to just live my life. I was living in California, and I was like feeling incredibly lost. I only really did well in the wilderness courses. Everything else I just kind of biffed and just wasn't focused, and had these two kids, and twins is a lot for your first time, especially as young as I was, really not having it together or knowing how I'm going to navigate this reality, already being aware of my mission. And I was living in California, and it's just relentless forces like on me that were just trying to control me, trying to trip me up. But I'm like, no, this is just your karma. Like, do the inner work, maybe you're just clearing something. And I was always looking at it from that angle, not, oh, you're being attacked, oh, you're targeted, or this or that. But deep down, I sort of had this sense that might be going on. So anyway, I was going to join this herbal school and do herbology, and they didn't have enough people signed up. And so I was just sort of doing my thing, and I was walking down the street one day. It was in Santa Rosa, California. And somebody approached me that was at this clairvoyant institute, and they brought me in. They're like, oh, let's do a reading. We're just reaching out to people to come in because we're doing a psychic fair. And so nobody knew who I was, and I was just there. And they're like, oh, Eisenhower's here. And I was like, holy crap. Like, nobody even knows, like, who I am. I'm not a public person at all. I don't even carry that name. And I went to them at the end. I'm like, well, my great-grandfather's Eisenhower. I was like, yeah, he's with you. Like, he's your guide. And I was like, whoa, okay. So I took courses there, but this force was still upon me, and they were recognizing it. They're like, no, it's not you. It's just, they're trying to, take your light away. They're trying to destroy you. They're trying to control you, this or that. And I got to the point where I couldn't really do much, even though I had all this help and assistance to try and get this crap off of me. We're talking like councils of psychics and healers. And I even ran into shamans, and some of the people that were at the Institute weren't, they were in the training part of it. But I just gave up. I'm like, all right, whatever that control force is, I want to just follow it so I can just see what it wants. And then all of a sudden I find myself moving back to Washington, D.C. and living in the basement of my mother's house, totally isolated. And then I decide, well, you don't want to be completely isolated. Go out and just do something. And I decided to go to this like small festival And this is where some people are like, oh, yeah, and you're probably like, doing something and you imagining all this. It's like, no, I have email proof. I don't have time to like be a public weirdo. Like, I got better things to do. I could channel that into art or music. I don't need to like put out a weird story. But this happened. I went to a festival and this person approached me, and I was very familiar with him because, like I said, the Looking Glass Technologies had located us in past lives. They pulled him into this project and program and told him to go find me at this place because clearly they're able to track me. I don't know if they implanted me with something. They have the ability through phones to track any of us. Not like... So anyway, we formed a relationship, and none of it was like, oh, Mars or this or that. We just, formed a bond, and I would go to D.C. Well, I lived in D.C. I left the festival, went back home, lived in my mother's basement with my kids, and him and I were dating. But he was going to these secret meetings in Washington, D.C., and he would, drive and meet with me after he would go to them. And he started to brief me. He started to tell me, this is what I'm doing. Very covert, very hidden, very shush, shush, shush. And I have all the emails just about this plan that they had to go to Mars in 2012 as the target date, and that, that I was supposed to go with him and that we were going to go together. And he had to be very careful how he worded it with me so that I wouldn't be suspicious. But I was already suspicious because I'm like, well, that doesn't match up with what I was shown as a child, being prepared for this ascension window period. So this doesn't feel right. And that's when I really started to investigate. But when they realized, because they're monitoring, tracking, they have all the technologies. These guys are connected to MJ12. They have access to all these alien technologies. So they decided to just sort of like drop the subject, right? And then, him and I decided to live together. I moved to North Carolina, and we shared a house. And we did a hand-fasting Celtic ceremony, like a year and a day. If you're still wanting to be together after a year and a day, then you get really married. And so I'm like thinking, wow, it's been a week and a day. And I'm like, this is getting weird because the Mars stuff started to show up even more loudly. And I'm just one of those people that I'm really skeptical, but I'm also really like, I go into this mode of detachment just for my own sanity, even though it might appear to others as, wow, she's really kind of out there. But I really started to like, okay, who are these names? And what is this meeting? And why is this still coming up? I thought it was something that was going to be public, like, oh, we're going to go to the moon, or, oh, he's just part of a team, that's going to explore space, but humanity's going to know about it, and they're all involved. And then when I realized how secret it was, and I was already aware of chemtrails or weather modification and superstorms, and so in my intuition, I had a dream. I had a really profound dream. It was so lucid. And I don't want to like talk too much if you want to jump in, so you can interrupt me anytime. But I had such an amazing dream where I was being taken up by a ship, but it was like chains, right? And I was being taken up into this ship, and there are all these men with like these kind of spy-looking gear on. And this voice from the sky said, you have a choice. You either go with these guys or you stay here on Earth and you do your mission. I said, well, of course I'm going to stay. So I fell back into the ocean. Oh, sorry, I started off in the ocean for some reason. And I had made my choice. But this is way before I had all the information. It was the one thing that sparked my curiosity to really, really get to the bottom of it. I was a little bit naive and just like, okay, well, it doesn't feel right, but, I know that there's going to be some sort of support from spirit or my own self to help get to the bottom of it. And that totally happened. So when I landed back in the water, it's like, I was like, I want to go back up and just grab him and bring him back to Earth. Like, he shouldn't be in there because he was on the ship. So I fly up, and there's thunder and lightning, and I can't access the ship. I end up landing in the water, and then all these planets aligned, and this glowing spirit energy, ended up taking over and, and just permeating everything. And I swam to the shore, and this voice said, you made the right decision. So I woke up, and I told my partner, I'm like, hey, I just had this crazy dream. And he said, you shouldn't have told me that. And everything went crazy from that point on. I had to move. There were dead bodies showing up in his trunk. Like, all this crazy stuff was happening, and I was doing massive research, just trying to connect the dots, trying to figure it out. So I'm just like the audience, right? I'm like, what is this? I'm not here to overwhelm anybody. I'm coming from a place of, I'm just as confused, And after, I don't know, what is it? We're in 2018, from 2006 to 2007 till now. That's like 7-8 years. I don't know. Sorry if my math still sucks. I still count on my fingers. I'm just like, whoa. I've had to sort it out. I've had no choice. So when you guys are hearing it for the first time, I know it's triggering a huge process, but, yes, we have to understand there's a secret space program, and there's stuff going on that we all need to, be in a conversation about. Like, I don't have fixed beliefs. I'm just trying to assess the situation. I'm trying to look at all angles. But all I can say is this is a real story, and this is what happened to me.
At any time when you were approached about going to Mars, were you drugged? Were you hypnotized? Were you put under any type of mental, type of control, mind control, or anything along those lines to try and make you feel like this was the right decision to make?
Nope. They did that to my partner, though. They knew for some reason that they couldn't get to me. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like an Eisenhower family protection or just me on a soul level, that wasn't part of what I needed to manifest to be able to get to where I am. And then I'm like, well, what if you just don't remember? Because they can wipe memory. So I did hypnoregression. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm like, I'm not going to assume that oh yeah, I'm so clear and I just figured this out. I'm like, wow, maybe you have been drugged. Maybe you have been messed with, because I certainly know many people who have, and they're powerful warriors that are breaking through that stuff. But that wasn't quite the storyline that, ended up playing out for me. He was the one that was going through all that. That's why he would go away and disappear for days at a time. He was, being completely used in that way. They did not, for some reason, I don't know why, have access to me. And I would go to certain events like years later, and they'd be like, they can't touch you. It's almost like they just can't. But they can use people to try and touch me, but they can't get to me directly, is what the validation was. So I did hypnoregression because I'm not going to make any assumptions. I don't want to share anything with the public unless something feels true enough beyond a reasonable doubt, or else I'm not helping anyone. And I know that exists. But no, I never had direct connection with them. But if he was able to track me, clearly, some kind of implant was put in, or maybe it came through my phone or my electronics, my computer. I don't have any abduction memories, but he did. He had tons of abduction stories. But when he started to channel this whole plan to go to Mars, they had put him in a position to create the whole mission. But yet they pulled him in after finding out that he had been abducted, because we're talking, this group is called the Aviary. You can Google it. And if you Google John Alexander, the Aviary, you're going to see that these folks are connected to psychotronic weaponry, gang stalking, mind control, my labs, and all this stuff. So what I was beginning to understand is now available to the public. Somebody came out with a website maybe 2 years, 3 years later, and I was like, phew, because, you don't know if you're making the right decisions. Sometimes I would go into self-doubt. Maybe I should have gone. Maybe I'm just going down the wrong rabbit hole, and I'm just paranoid. But somebody, there's been a lot of information being put out there of what these guys are all about, and they're called the Aviary. And but they didn't directly get to me, but they certainly used him to get to me. And I wouldn't say it almost worked, but I almost didn't make it. It got really gnarly. It still kind of is, but there's a lot of compartmentalism, and the reason nobody could convince me is because maybe they hadn't done that. Mostly it works on people that they pull into those projects as a child, It's a long-term type of conditioning where, somebody experiences abductions throughout their life, and it's sort of a family thing, My situation is like a little bit different. Eisenhower faced, a lot of these different beings and was presented with, some decision-making in regards to that, but a lot of that decision-making was not in his hands, and that's why he gave the warning. But, it's not like I'm protected because I'm blessed or special. It's like everybody's got their role to play. The people that have gone through that stuff and can wake up from it, those are mind-blowing warriors, right? I just was born into a family where I was like, I'm going to bust this stuff open. Oh, my God, I didn't cuss. I hope somebody's proud of me, because I am. But
I'm actually quite impressed you didn't cuss there.
Right, because I go there, who doesn't? But yeah, it's like that just wasn't my particular storyline. But, it was, how can you bust through the mind control of, oh, you're protected. Oh, we want to take you to Mars, because by 2012, there's going to be planetary catastrophes, and we want to take you somewhere safe. It's like, I'm not special. I'm no more special than anyone. That was the biggest red flag. Just like, BS, sorry. And then, that dream I had, and but they never drugged me or did anything. But I have drugged myself. In my
well,
history.
who hasn't? Who hasn't in this day and age done a little exploring, shall we say? But I do want to ask you, Laura, what's on Mars? What did they tell you was there, or what did you later find out?
Well, gosh, I've gotten a lot from, things that Corey Goode says, Andrew Bashago, Michael Rice, Captain K. I've been looking at all those different stories. Supposedly, from Corey Goode's testimony, there's like 5 different colonies. Ruins that they refurbished into colonies. Slave camp. I mean, it's mining. Yeah, all sorts of stuff. And so when we see like Trump coming out with this whole like space thing, it's like we've had a secret space program. The only positive part of the secret space program actually is the solar wardens. But there's a lot of war between all these different space programs. So we look at, Mars. It seems like that's a real hotspot place for the space program to focus in on. And I think that has to do with the fact that Maldek exploded, affected the life on Mars. But it more originates when Tiamat exploded when we were in a higher density. And then we fell down in density. And these secret space programs were created because, we're dealing with a lot of refugees. Some that have remained on a lifeless planet that have done their best, some that have gone underground, and some that are kind of like, just hanging out in their ships trying to like figure out, what to do. So, it really comes down to service to self, service to others. The service to self, want domination and control. People like the Solar Warden have the best interests of humanity and are more into the diplomacy. So, everything that we get from the governments is very much a facade to help introduce people either in a good way towards disclosure or in a controlling way. And that's why we have to keep them in check. So when we hear somebody like Donald Trump beginning to talk about space, hopefully people that are hearing about it for the first time will do their research. But research isn't going to go anywhere if we don't have a developed intuition and we don't have discernment. Or else we could just easily be played and led astray. I mean, this has just been a huge issue in our history forever. The mind control, the social engineering. So I think that's the most important thing to focus on is how can we sharpen our pencils? How can we sharpen our inner abilities and recognize that we're the most advanced technology? We can be sovereign and be on the timeline that we want. And then let's see what species shows up and is in camaraderie with that. But if we're vulnerable and broken and weakened and disempowered, any race could come in, just like we see in the human realm, and move us into an agenda that, is going to digress us into a transhumanism kind of robotic thing where, when we look at the EBEs and the Greys, it's like, some might say it's advanced because it has the intellectual thing, but it's also missing something, or else it wouldn't need to tinker with everybody and examine everybody and take genetic information.
How long have bases been established up on Mars as far as you've been able to find out? Because for a lot of us out there, Laura, it's hard to fathom that we can't even get back to the moon these days with regular technology that they've shown us. So how can we believe that there's some sort of hidden technology in the space program, secret space program, that's able to travel as far as Mars and beyond?
Because they're hoarders. This is the elitist mentality. Look what they're already doing. If we really do our research, look at these dark rituals. Look at the ways that they gain power, beauty, influence. They use people. They steal life force. So when these technologies come, they're like, oh, those are ours too. And it's through those technologies that they're even able to do that. They've been impacting the Earth grids for the last 30,000 years. They put dark technologies in place, one called the Nephilim reversal grid, that created reversal coding in the Earth to keep our DNA from being able to synthesize and upgrade. So when we are born, it's not like, oh, the natural evolution is in front of us to expand and grow. It's like, whoa, why is it so difficult? Whoa, why is all that so messed up? So I know I'm kind of got it off on a tangent, but why aren't these technologies given to us? It's like, because they wouldn't make any money. They wouldn't be the 1%. They wouldn't be the ones in power. They're handing us iPhones like, oh, this is advancement, right? But they're traveling up to space. They're doing all sorts of stuff. This technology is not new. We've had it in our ancient history. We used to be advanced. We used to have full 12-strand capacity, but we were the Merkaba. We were the UFO consciousness. You know, now they've learned how to imitate it through artificial intelligence to create a whole different sort of reality about it, to not only monitor human souls and physicality, but also everything multidimensional. So when we're getting targeted, it's not just a 3D, 4D thing. We can get targeted from 11D. The Dracos compromise their DNA down to 10-strand DNA. The dark factions of the Anunnaki, 11-strand. But that closes off the gateway to get to 12, which is Christ consciousness, that leads into the connection with the 13th gate, which is the mother, which is actually the core of our planet. And I know people are like, oh my God, and I know I don't want to lose anybody here, but it's all about hoarding. It's like they just want it. They've got underground bases. What are they doing there? They're creating clones to harvest organs. There's technologies that harvest our life force when we give our power away, and it feeds them. So why is there pedophilia? Because the life force of a child is basically a shot of adrenaline. That's their heroin. They don't do anything based on integrity or the real soul journey of needing to go into the dark night of the soul. They want to actually occupy that place of power within ourselves and run the show for us so that we're not, you know, fully integrated in our fullness, in our multidimensional energy. They have like a hold of our creative energy, and then we watch what's on the news and we live through the media instead of being all that we can be. And that's where the mind control comes in. It's you put on the TV, like, and then it's so confusing because there's different disinformation, and then, you know, you find everybody's not in agreement. Everybody's at different levels of their soul journey. And I don't pretend to know all the answers. I don't pretend that I'm enlightened. I'm certainly not a prophet, but, you know, I do have the willingness to look back in a place of neutrality and be objective enough to look at all sides. And I just, you know, I think that's just a good conclusion. Knowing, you know, I call it, well, see, I'll cuss if I say it, but no, this is mind apostrophe planet. It's just, you know, it's here to mess with our heads. And in turn, what does that do? We can't unify. We're all at war with each other. So even if they took off and there was no agenda, look at, you know, how the nervous system stores trauma in the cells of our body. We have to do major purging and detoxing to be able to even relate without, you know, historical triggers and wounds and masculine and feminine issues, which is like this Me Too movement. It's like, it's even come down to, oh my God, if you even look at me the wrong way and put your hand on my shoulder, I'm going to get you fired. So there's this hyper need to be able to correct those imbalances, but then it's going to the other extreme. So it's like, oh my gosh. So I don't know if there's a planet that could come in instead of planet X, like a therapy planet. Like, this planet needs therapy, maybe from another planet. I mean, we're trying to do it amongst ourselves, but just like, God, there's so much to heal from. But a lot of agendas play on that. They created the trauma and the separation through technologies and through the programming, through the media, the distortions, through just entertainment and religion, so that we would be in this complete and total mess right now, in this unbelievable window period that's available to us. This window period is giving us all that we need to upgrade and expand and come together and find sacred union. But we're too busy wrapped up in all the crap they've been throwing at us. And that's a part of the agenda. And it does, you know, we're multidimensional beings. So there are off-planet influences just as much as there's spirit guides and fairies. You know, there's going to be a duality in the types of things that influence us just as much as we can tap into the ones that will support us and help us. So when we're in a negative ego mindset, it's very easy to all of a sudden be enabling the reptilian agenda without realizing it. So, I mean, I see this on social media. I'm always amazed, like, oh my God, you know, this person thinks they're completely awake and they're being just as tyrannical, just as controlling, and just as manipulative and just as abusive. You know, just trying to get their point across. It's like, come on. And totally projecting, not even able to read what people are, you know, anyway, I won't go off. Oh, you are going off. But I'll...
Well, we got about 90 seconds here before we have to go to our first break of the night. So I want to quickly get you in this question here in regards to Mars. Were you told any specifics about it? How many people were there? Do you get to come back once you're there? What was the story?
Nope, I was not going to be able to come back. I was going to be a permanent colonist. They're basically working on terraforming it. There are already colonies there. And we were going to go in something called ARC, A-R-C, in 2012 that were named. Very significant archetypal names that I identify with. Just, I don't know, I feel like it's almost part of the manipulation. I mean, it's so long and drawn out to the point where I don't want people to think that I really buy into it, but it had a lot to do with, I don't know, that we were supposedly going to have some sort of sacred union sort of role to help heal something, which makes sense. But then how can it be healing if it's controlled? It's like, you know, eventually that can happen, but it needs to kind of happen like in a different sort of way, because the person that I was with was not fully there. I mean, he was completely under their control. And again, they probably thought that he needed to be. But what they present and what is actually real is something that we have to have discernment about, which I had discernment about. So everything they told me, what was there and what we were tasked to do, unless I can sit down with you and have a real conversation, I'm not just going to go along with it. They didn't mention how many people were there, and I didn't get to talk to them directly, so all I could do was like eavesdrop. And I took notes, I took names. That's why I know the names that I know. Why the hell would I know these people otherwise? I'm not like one of those scholarly people. I don't hardly even read books, okay? But I'm not a total idiot either. But all I could do was just eavesdrop. So they were talking about terraforming. They were mentioning all these names, different technologies, and definitely AI was coming in. And I was why? What?
I got to cut you off right there because we got to go to our first break of the night. Laura Eisenhower is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking Mars, Space Force, secret space program, and whatever else we can fit in the next hour on the show. We'll be right back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hey Space Travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm going to take you for a ride every Sunday night on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to set up your week with some strange tales from across North America, from psychic readings, Sasquatch, UFOs, to the most haunted locations. Come join me at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and let's get weird together. I'd love for you to join me. Spaced Out Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Michael Huntington talks about the paranormal travels his family takes, looking for ghosts, Bigfoot, aliens, and so much more, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on the SOR radio network, including the Fringe FM, and don't forget, you can check out our archives at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Do old Davey the favor here, hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate that. No password for tonight. in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Don't know where Bill Cardwell is. He is absent tonight. Let's just make up a password, shall we? What should our password be? No, Adam, it's not Gnome. Yeah, what the hell? We'll make Gnome. Gnome is your password for tonight. Bill usually sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, we got a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO seekers, and so much more. Laura Eisenhower is our guest tonight. She is a great-granddaughter of former President Dwight Eisenhower. She has been recruited into Mars program. She is an expert on the Created Treaty and, of course, the Secret Space program. And we're going to get into this new Space Force tonight with Laura. We welcome Laura back to the show. Laura, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Really appreciate you doing that. I want to get to a question here right off the bat, because I always like to include the audience questions in hour number 2. And just wondering, Laura, how do you know what's real and what they're trying to manipulate you into believing?
The minute we start to say, oh, I have it all figured out, I think that's a major trap. I mean, there's some things that I feel I understand beyond a reasonable doubt because I have enough evidence, and that's usually the heart of my presentations and things that I share. But no, I mean, I'm flexible. It's like, oh, okay, wow, I didn't see that one before. Oh, wow, that's some new information. And, you know, when we get too rigid, we close everything off and we begin to get combative, you know. But there's certain things that I'm combative with that I just know are deadly evil. That I've just seen too much. I mean, I do readings every day. I deal with, you know, trauma-based mind control victims. You know, people that have gone through the worst. I mean, this is my everyday. So it's not just, oh yeah, you know, when you have people in front of you that are not asking you to make them famous with their story. You know, I've certainly never wanted that with me. It's like, you know, nobody even needs to know me. I just need to express this because I'm not seeking public anything. It's just the urgency that's going on the planet. I just have a ton of clients that have, you know, that have seen my work. They're like, okay, I can talk to her about this. She understands. So, am I even coming close to answering your question?
Just so you know, if you hear me swat something or like my hands clapping together, it's because I'm killing mosquitoes. So right. I do apologize if you hear me all of a sudden clapping on something because I'm trying to get some air circulating in here. I forgot to turn my fan on. And it's a little warm, so I popped open the window and hopefully not too many mosquitoes come through, but, you know, we do have to worry about that. But nonetheless, in regards to the mind control and the brainwashing that these, you know, agencies do you feel that it has affected who you are as a person today over the years?
I'm definitely rough around the edges and just very exhausted by, I mean, just having to counteract it all the time. I mean, I'm one of those very, like, no, I'm not going to allow that in. I mean, I was getting downloaded stuff since I was a little kid. I mean, I knew about my mission since I was a kid. And I noticed the programming. I noticed all this stuff. And, you know, there are times that I was so attacked that I lost my center completely. And it was just like, you almost feel like you're in hell. You're not grounded. You don't know what's real. And it's just like, I mean, I can't even tell everyone how much I've been in that zone. And I have so much compassion for it. That's why I do the work that I do, you know? But as far as like, has it ever been able to control me? I don't let it because I don't create a fixed belief. I'm like, oh, okay, this signal's coming in. It doesn't feel authentic. You know what I think really helped me is that I was in the wilderness for a couple of years. I got certificates. I went to school for it, being a wilderness expedition leader. So you're in nature. You can listen to nature. You can hear your own soul. You can see the laws of nature and just the whole process. Because to me, nature is a representation of what we're made of on a soul level, right? Earth, air, fire, water. Now we're connecting in with the ether. That sacred geometry was compromised, the dodecahedron that represents that, because they know how to take things and change the coding, just like our DNA too. So, I mean, I just put myself in the right situations to avoid falling into that trap, because I was raised in that trap. I mean, when you grow up in D.C. and you're like in a presidential family and you see what they're trying to do, modifying this bloodline into, you know, and seeing some of it like show up in family members, it's like, hold on, folks, this is not where we're going to go. And they didn't, you know, and I feel grateful that I could give them that little bit of warning, because it wasn't looking so good. And I don't want to name any names. The mind control has affected me in a way where I'm just in like fierce warrior mode, you know, and I feel like I've been in this unbelievable boot camp. I feel like I was born a very sweet person, and now I'm just like, I don't want to even say the word. I'm just like, it's okay. It'll balance out. No, I have a lot of PTSD, but, you know, better than being a zombie. So I have to kind of deal with that. And a lot of people do. I mean, we're a traumatized humanity. I mean, look at all the world wars. We're not ready for disclosure, but yet people are sent off to war and they get their limbs blown off. Who's ready for that? It's bullshit. See, I'm not going to cuss. I mean, that's not even cussing.
That's very nice. That's very nice. Well, it all ties into the news that kind of came down yesterday, where President Donald Trump, a couple of months ago, you know, kind of threw a curveball to the media saying maybe it's time for a Space Force. And then yesterday, out of the blue, he makes an announcement stating that he is establishing, effective immediately, a sixth branch of the military, which is the Space Force. Now, for people who have done any research on this topic, there are many who believe there is a secret space program already in place. You were one of them. You have researched this topic. But for the mainstream public who listens to this, you know, they will be caught off guard by this, wondering, what the hell do we need a Space Force for? What do you know about the secret space program, and how would it tie into the Space Force that was announced yesterday?
The Space Force that was announced recently, I feel, is a part of sort of the dark cabal forces, putting Trump in a position of, let's pretend this was a new thing, you know? Let's just like what we see with NASA, or like we'll put rovers on Mars. Like, let's see if there's life out there. Oh, let's do like all these different projects to see if we can contact intelligent life. It's to create a facade to eventually warm people up to the fact that this is a lot more real than we can imagine, except maybe they won't ever admit that, oh, we were just giving you little tidbits because now we're going to uncover everything, right? And this is what the challenge is right now. Soft disclosure, or here it is in your face. The one positive thing about him saying this is that people might start to say, well, let me put like Space Force in the Google thing. Oh, yeah, you might run into Corey Good. You might run into, you know, some of these other people that were involved in the secret space program. I mean, there's no way that a person can embrace something like that and not have some kind of curiosity to see, you know, what that might mean without running into people like us in this field. And if they bypass it altogether and they start to just walk down that more kind of controlled facade of disclosure and you know, let's pretend that, I mean, it's almost like stealing something. It's like there's been space programs in the works for a really long time. So let's just pretend that Trump is the one that is like bringing that in. Then what? Hopefully, if you want to create that facade because it's too shocking for humans, that out of all different layers of the secret space program, you're going to stand by the solar wardens that, you know, really have humanity's best interests at heart, versus everybody else. But how can you possibly start a Space Force when there's already a secret space program? You know, but it's sort of their way of saying, okay, we're dealing with, you know, kindergartners on some level, you know, but in the same school, you're going to have people that are ready for a PhD. So, you know, maybe it's a part of the languaging to bring people up to speed, or it's going to be a control mechanism to keep people limited to a facade that isn't going to serve us in the end because, you know, so we got to keep our eye on it. I mean, obviously there's secret space programs. Some people can handle the more intense version of it because of their curiosity, and some people are just going to only, put on the TV and look at that. They're not curious enough. They're just taking what comes at them. So I just feel like this is a bridge, and it's a positive thing between, okay, let's start to look at that. It's going to trigger a lot of curiosity, but it's also going to probably keep people locked into just what comes through, the mainstream versus all this other stuff. If Trump could say, yeah, we're going to add the Space Force, and then after a certain amount of time, okay, guys, are you ready for this? Check out people like Corey Goode. Check out people like Andrew Vachago. Check out, a former president's descendant. Check out, he probably won't go there. So I'm not waiting on him, and nobody else should either. Stuff is going to start to open up, but let your curiosity take you further. And if you're not ready for it, walk in baby steps, but, be prepared.
Do you think this has anything to do with extraterrestrials and ET contact, or do you believe this is just about putting militarization and the military-industrial complex into space, maybe nuclear weapons, cruise missiles, whatever may be up there, not only to protect the United States and their interests from any earthly attack, but from attacks from maybe elsewhere?
I think I caught everything that you said. We're talking like many different layers, many different agendas, many different controller groups, and some that, really have our best interests at heart, that don't even want to deal with the ones that are in that control mechanism, because sort of like an immune system, it doesn't need to, try and like make a deal with your disease. It just wants you to look at it so it can dissolve it. Look at me, I'm your immune system. Just step up to the plate, recognize I'm here, and we can begin to abolish all this other stuff or help you to release yourself from it. Instead of, let's make a deal. Cancer, let's be a part of the council. It's like, but, it takes a little bit of that camaraderie also to heal. Certain levels of the secret space program are, going to be coming from artificial intelligence, the Draco-Reptilian Alliance, things with the Nordics and how they were all about the eugenics and racial purity, and that's not a terrible thing, but it's abusive as well, because who's to determine that, really, at the end of the day? When belief systems get to the point of like trying to take control over the sovereignty of any individual, there's a problem. So there are aspects of the space program that are very, very dark, Luciferian, satanic. And then there's aspects that aren't like that at all. So there's all this sort of infighting going on. And yes, it relates to off-planet entities and subterranean cultures too. And so we have to understand we're multidimensional. So what we carry as far as who we are also plays a part in how these agendas unfold. When I'm like up against the Mars agenda, I'm like, well, on a metaphysical level, what does this mean? Men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Well, are we just not going to get along for the rest of eternity? No. Venus will heal Mars or inspire Mars to maybe not be such a control freak and such a dominator, and maybe like feel the rays of love and rehabilitate. You know how misery loves company, and sometimes if you've gone through a lot, you turn evil when all you really want is love. So, there's the benevolent groups that are just like, which I feel a part of. Where can we bring unconditional love into the mix so that we can help rehabilitate some of these aggressive, dominating energies? Of course, like some aren't designed to be able to be rehabilitated, but humans still have free will, even though we feel like we don't. We get to decide what we're going to connect to most. And there's, multidimensional layers. We got DNA strands that connect to the Earth grids and the stargates. We have chakras and galactic chakras that connect to the multidimensional layers of the cosmos and creation. We got everything we need within ourselves. So, we're being taught to feel helpless, like we need to be saved. In the secret space program, with all its sort of, it's like being at an expo with people like trading crystals and stones. It's like they're doing that with humans. They want to siphon life force, but then there are those that are like, how can we rehabilitate this? So it's humanity that decides. We're in this tug of war. Are we going to choose our sovereignty, or are we going to let something come in saying we don't have the ability to figure this out for ourselves? Some will be more positive in helping us to figure it out, and some will absolutely crush us. So we're dealing with huge diversity. All we need to do is look at the oceans, look at all the different layers of creatures that exist in the oceans and just nature. And, you know, there's going to be the omnivores, the herbivores, the carnivorous ones. And, you know, we have to understand it's nature and it's okay. But what can we do to be able to manage it? And that's what I learned in the wilderness. It's like, oh, here's a scorpion. Oh, here's something that could actually kill me. You know, but how can I be in its presence without it doing that? You know, it feeds on fear, so I can't show fear, right? So everything that we're dealing with on a multidimensional level is something we're taught here in the physical plane if we can just open our eyes. Because the whole deal is that it can help to rebuild our DNA and our soul architecture of all these different archetypes. We don't need to be like, oh, it's Lucifer, it's Satan. We just need to be like, well, we're made of all these different aspects. Which one do we want to drive this ship? Our higher self. And then everything else will find its place. If we let other things run, you know, like our fears, our anxieties, if we let that make choices for us, you know, then our higher self is suppressed, which means that we have bought into the agenda. So we change it. We win the war within ourselves because there's no way to win it in any other way because the war is on consciousness.
Do you think this is disclosure or the start of it, or do you believe it's more of a confirmation, as people like Grant Cameron are saying?
So with what Trump's saying? No, I don't think it's real disclosure, but I think it's going to open the door to the real disclosure. I mean, people like you and me and others, I mean, we've been doing this for years. You know, that is the disclosure. Now the governments are finally like saying something that like starts to help us to open our eyes to it, but that's the mainstream that has been cut off from the kind of information that we share. You know, all the different contact experiences, all the different UFO sightings, all the different things that have been hidden within our governments that have been kept secret. And it's like, it's not real disclosure. You know, it's just as much of a facade as like, oh, we went to the moon, even though, you know, there's been a lot of activity on the moon already. So we get the watered down version of the humanity because they're trying to like bring us through baby steps. But to me, it's very controlled because if they can send people to war and then say we're not ready for the truth, that's ridiculous. Who's ready to get their, sorry, I keep referring to that, but, you know, who's ready to leave their family and go fight a war compared to just knowing what the bigger picture is all about? So I think it's like a step in the right direction, but it should just be a window into finding the real source of what disclosure is. It's like, okay, he brought up Space Force. What does that mean? Don't wait for Trump to say the next thing. Look at the people that have been showing up to events, speaking out, writing books. You know, I mean, there's more information out there than we can imagine. That's already disclosure. You know, the government version is always going to be like, for what they consider to be like the most dumbed down version of society that is not prepared, or the most controlled version to keep us completely dependent and to open us up to an alien government that is going to compromise us more than it already has. And the thing is, when disclosure happens and it's, you know, connected to an alien government, we're going to see like, you know, like the Hunger Games play out. They had alien technologies, but like, look at the duality that got even worse. So we got to be very careful of how we accept governmental disclosure compared to the people that have been speaking, and look at the people as the power, not the government. They need to be starved and start to have our back instead of the other way around.
I apologize if you heard some rustling around there and some noise, probably wondering what the hell all that was. I had a massive spider on my wall. I had to get rid of it. So not only am I dodging mosquitoes, but this, you know, inch-long spider was like crawling up my wall, and it's like, I got to get that sucker out the window, because I don't like killing spiders. As much as I don't like them, I don't like killing them because they eat bugs.
Right?
Yeah, so I had to try and capture the guy and get him out there because he was giving me the heebie-jeebies. So really, I had no choice to do it. So I apologize if you heard some rustling around there during the time. Oh, well, even better then. Even better. You know, I'm sure somebody did, probably on Periscope or someplace like that. What the hell is Dave doing? Well, I was fighting a spider. I took a couple of shots there. Yeah, I took a couple of shots. I survived, though. No bruises, no bumps. No scratches, no bites.
Well, isn't it funny? Because I was talking about scorpions showing up and, you know, dangerous creatures showing up and, you know, knowing how to work with it. And meanwhile, you know, Dave Scott's dealing with freaking mosquitoes and spiders. I just think it's a war here. Wonderful time.
It is a war here. I could tell you that. And I'm watching this mosquito now bounce up and down on my wall, trying to. I'm just like thinking, like I've killed like 3 of them in the last couple of minutes. Come on over here. Let's kill you too.
They're asking for it.
Yeah.
Bloodsuckers.
Yes. Yeah. I think if I ever get the chance to meet God right away, I'm going to ask him, what the hell was the purpose of mosquitoes? I mean, let's be honest here. What was the purpose of mosquitoes? I mean, the whole malaria, West Nile virus thing, was that really necessary? That's what I want to ask.
Well, I want a suggestion box for creator, just some suggestions. You know, maybe next time you might do this a little different.
Yeah, no kidding.
Suggestion box.
No kidding. No kidding. I got a couple of questions on Periscope from Danny, and he's been waiting since hour number 1 to get these to you. So I'm going to ask him right off the way. And first one in regards to Donald Trump, he says, in his announcement yesterday, Trump seemed to laugh at the idea of rockets. Do you think he knows something that we don't?
What was he laughing about in terms of rockets?
Well, I guess the question was asked about, how are we going to get there on our current rocket system?
Oh, right. And we have anti-gravity technologies and ways to go through portals and stargates and teleport and all this advanced technology. I mean, does he know about that? Or, how much is anybody kept in the dark where they're like, let me just hand you the watered down version, even though I know this other stuff is going on. And maybe, he doesn't. And he's just laughing at the fact that, wow, I just have no idea that there's this whole other deal going on. And I'm being briefed that I need to create a space force without being briefed that there's a secret space program. Or he's totally in the know and he's just laughing because, I'm going to pull another fast one on humanity. I mean, the thing is, I support this man only in the hopes that he will come around, because I don't think he's a part of the cabal like the Clintons and Bushes. But yeah, he's pretty moronic. All of us can admit. And I shouldn't say that publicly, because if I ever want to, try and connect with him, he might be like, you're the one that called me a moron. Not like he would ever listen. So I don't think I'm that powerful or important. But, we've gone to space. I mean, we have been advanced so many times that we almost act like we're experiencing this for the first time. I mean, think about Lemuria, Atlantis. I mean, we don't even remember where we were before that. These are just root races. There was an original Atlantis and Lemuria in a completely different dimensional energy, where a planet exploded and sunk us into this, and then Maldek exploded, And I'm not going to say that take everything I say as absolute truth. I don't think anybody would. But my God, have I put my head into this research, and I've seen every side of this kind of argument, and I've meditated on it deeply. And it's like, this stuff has been around for a long time. I mean, we were way advanced. We're just returning to what we used to be. We've totally digressed. We've been in this weird death, rebirth cycle of reincarnation, amnesia, all these wars, massive digression. And now we're at a crossroads in this window period to return to what we once were without it having to be the same storyline, but to move into the final, and what is the final, finale? Oh my gosh. We get to come and go from the physical as we please. We're not stuck in this reincarnation cycle. We're in a higher earth energy that's not contaminated, because we've healed our inner elements and cleared it. Because we hold earth, air, fire, water. Anyway, I could go on, but whatever about Trump and I think people pay way too much attention to these governments. They're the kindergartners here. They're just let's just put out this for our dumbed down humanity. It's like, no, we need to have better self-worth than that. We don't need these freaking people. Sorry.
Very well put. Very well put. In regards to the secret space program, do you think, and this is Danny's second question, do you think that this will actually put the flat earthers on record having to admit that the world is officially round?
I don't know what's going to happen to flat earthers. They're so happy about their theory. It could be very crushing, which, I mean, if truth is going to come out, that kind of stuff is going to come out too. But at the same time, it's like, we're multidimensional beings. So it's like, hey, enjoy your flat earth, because that's what your electromagnetic spectrum awareness is giving you, that you only see it as flat. I see it as a multidimensional freaking diamond. I see it as like something so profound. I'm like, all right, you flat earthers, that's great. It's just like everything's flat. It's like, wow. I just don't see it that way. So it's going to take a shift in their consciousness to be able to see it differently, because people hold on to belief systems like a religion, which these flat earthers are doing. I don't feel the things that I have visions about. I don't need to impose that on people and to be like obnoxious about it. It's just like, this is just what I see. Take it or leave it. If you see it too, great. And if you don't, cool. That's what you see, fine. I'd love to plant seeds so you can see it differently, you know, especially if it's a bunch of psyop BS. But, you know, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back like, oh, I worked this all so well. But I just think, yeah, they're in for a surprise, and it's really a part of their awakening. But I'm not saying that it's invalid what they believe either. It's just, I don't know how anybody could limit themselves to such a limited kind of density or dimensional awareness. It's like, my God, like I just see so much more than that. And I think when real disclosure comes out, it's going to blow open people's third eye. I mean, I totally feel that the flat earth thing is a psyops. And all these videos, it's like, look at all this proof. Look at all these theories. And it's like, I can't even go there. I'm like, I got bigger fish to fry, and I don't even care what is the planet triangle, freaking flat, freaking vertical. Like, this is not the priority right now. So it feels like a huge distraction. So I think, you know, it might, yeah. Are you getting me at all on that?
Sure. Let's move on. I got actually a couple questions from Peter in Johannesburg, South Africa, asking a couple questions for you. First off, he says, Laura, are there any future plans for you to come back and do more presentations in Johannesburg? I really enjoyed the one you did in 2011.
Oh, well, I mean, it's really up to people in South Africa to bring me there. I wouldn't know how to do it otherwise, but I would love to. I love being there. It was a Michael Tellinger conference. Yeah. I was close to going to his last one in April, but I was in the middle of a move and we had fallen out of touch, but we had talked about it. But I'm always open to that. I'm totally like ready to go anywhere.
And his second question to you is, Laura, do you have an opinion on Valiant Thor?
Well, you know, it's becoming sort of a mixed bag. I mean, I know the whole story, and my friend Craig Campobasso, who's the producer of the movie Stranger at the Pentagon, I totally is like such a sincere and authentic, amazing person. And it's like, there's got to be something to it. Supposedly Eisenhower and Nixon put Valiant Thor on VIP status for 3 years at the Pentagon, and they tried to convince them, which they did, and they were on board with it, you know, that they would bring their mission to humanity. But it got shut down because, you know, the shadow government is like, the president really, honestly, does not have any real power. Neither does Trump, you know, but what are their intentions? Can we get to know them a little bit more deeply and understand what they're up against? So anyway, it all got shut down, and supposedly Valiant Thor and Victor One and his whole crew still stay close to Earth, and their motherships are all around the planet. And Lake Mead is particularly one spot where the Valiant Thor ship is, that you can't visibly see, but you can see an energy field in the sky. Like birds can't fly through it. Like if you throw a rock, it bounces off, but it's close. So I think there's a lot of validity to it, and I've spoken about it in my presentations, but I've also gotten feedback where certain individuals are like completely like undoing it, like it doesn't exist at all. So don't we find that with most things? Like, broccoli's good for you. No, broccoli's terrible for you. Oh, Trump did this. No, actually he meant that. Or it's like, can we really get to the bottom of anything with the internet? It's like, for one thing that we think might exist, there's something that will back up the fact that it doesn't, which gets really confusing. I haven't gotten any family validation. I've brought it up. I'm like, what's up with Valiant Thor? They're like, oh, you mean that Marvel comic dude or whatever? I'm like, we're not getting anywhere. And I'm talking to Julie and David Nixon, right, who is my aunt and uncle. Like, gosh, if that's not ringing a bell as far as who Valiant Thor is, or they're just hiding it, I shouldn't have said that publicly. Shoot. Anyway, it was more like a really quick conversation. We were just driving. We were at Eisenhower Farm on a family gathering thing. It's like, I don't know what, you know, it's like I have my intuition, but can I say that my intuition is completely spot on. I would like to think it is, but I'm not going to act like it is. I feel definitely he existed. One of my really good friends channeled him, had him as a spirit guide since she was a kid. And Valiant Thor told her to come to one of the conferences I was speaking at. She had never heard of me, and we did a lot of energy work together, and she said that Valiant Thor and Eisenhower are still working together. They're a team. And she's such an authentic, beautiful soul, you know. It's just so animated and so real at all times. So, yeah, I would say it's valid as far as my experience goes, but I've seen things that, you know, want to make that not the case. And that's kind of the challenge we're up against. The minute we think we understand something, there's something to pull the carpet from underneath us. And it makes it difficult because it's like, I'm not getting anywhere. But yet, well, what remains? What feels resonant? You know, we're dealing with the creative imagination of the universe, where I think, you know, we're really artists and we're picking and choosing, you know, what serves our growth. And there's no real one truth. We just need to find something that's resonant enough with our soul process and development that we just got to let go of, like, almost the facts. And that's, I just never have said that before. It's just coming out, but I wouldn't recommend it either. It's just kind of coming through, but, you know, take it or leave it.
Let's get to a couple questions from PJ in the Periscope chat room, if you don't mind. PJ is asking, who are the big fish you feel you need to fry? Earlier you had mentioned that.
Wow, I'm like, do I even have a skillet that's big enough? Bigger fish to fry is like child trafficking, pedophilia, sex slavery, all the mind control projects. Gosh, I don't know. What bigger fish to fry than what, though? I can't remember what it was.
I would assume I'm assuming she means who? What names? Who's on the hit list?
Oh, I don't have a hit list. I mean, I can mention names as far as here, the people that were involved with the stuff that, and again, I'm not blaming them. I remember saying that, but I can't remember in what context. About what?
We can move on. Let's get to our next question, which is, what is your opinion, Laura, that are the biggest things to be concerned about in the next 20 years?
Well, the real crimes against humanity. I mean, and not just like being in the superficial sort of pointing fingers, oh, it's Trump, it's this or that. It's like, there's such a deeper history. Let's go to the root. I mean, when we get physical symptoms, do we just sit there and be like, oh, yeah, it's because I ate this food and now I have a rash? Well, what's the deeper reason that we have that sensitivity, or what is going on with our food that causes that? We can't just be like, oh, this is what it is, and let's just like be angry at it, and this is what we should take to make it better. It's like, I don't know. I'm a detective, I think, you know. I mean, I consider myself one. I think the biggest stuff we have to deal with is, you know, this transhumanism agenda, artificial intelligence, how our children are linking into the technological aspect of things too much. It's not to say that technology is bad. I mean, we wouldn't be able to have this show or communicate with each other without it. But how can we find a balance and still have our spiritual development and not immerse ourselves in, you know, the lack of morality, but ascension in terms of technological advancements, so that, oh, yeah, we can do whatever we want. We can be total schmucks to each other, you know, and we can sell ourselves to the Illuminati or elitist mentality and benefit from these sort of things, or be completely compromised because we're victims to it. I mean, how can we recognize ourselves as the most advanced technology and go through the initiations we need to go through to step out of this game that's being played? Because even if we wanted to join the dark side, maybe they wouldn't have us. And if anybody in their right mind would want to, that's a serious issue. But if you're on the other side of it and you're a victim to it, then what happens? You suffer, you know, and you're abused even further, and you're enslaved even further. So what is our only hope? Is to recognize what we're made of. I mean, we've been like dumbed down for a long time, but nothing has been destroyed. It's just been deactivated. It's only dormant. We have to learn how to step into a place or a process to begin to activate it again and upgrade it. All the energy is available to be able to do that. And then, you know, we'll notice a bifurcation. We'll start to split away from that world of people that want to be digressed, that don't want to be held accountable, and just use technology as a means for survival. I mean, a lot of these different races, their life cycle ends at a certain period, and then they time travel back to gain genetic information to keep their life cycle alive. But they're not on a path of like ascended mastery or, you know, moving into that place of embodying a higher benevolent race that occupies a craft that is based on their consciousness. So I think, you know, the biggest deal is discernment, you know, and we're very vulnerable. We've been very wounded, and we're going to be played, and, you know, we're going to be reactive, but, you know, can we hold space for each other? Can we rehabilitate together? Can we hold each other's hands, have each other's backs, and not be afraid of being transparent? Because who the fuck wants to hold on to a facade and just be like, oh yeah, everything's fine? No, nothing is fine. Nothing is great. No, let's all come together and make it so. You know, we all carry a piece of this gaping wound we are born into. Let's not be afraid to admit it, and let's just gather together and starve the beast. So what we should fear is our inability to just be real and genuine. Because when we can just say, this is what I'm going through, this is who I am, no, it's not perfect, so what? At least you're being real, and you're connecting into a healing vibration that nature supplies unconditionally, and same with spirit. But when we're just afraid of it, or what do other people think, then we've got into the mind control. Who cares? You know, I don't care if, like, nobody likes me anymore and I send out my list because of followers. They're not even followers. I consider them my friends and allies. But, I mean, literally, if I end up with 10 people at the end of the day, at least they're quality. Who needs quantity when you can have quality? You know? I don't know. I'm going off too much, but just let's all band together.
What is the harm, though? What is the harm, though, in transhumanism?
Well, it's based on mind control and, like, us losing connection with our soul. And once we lose connection with our soul, then we begin to get modified, and we become a part of, like, this kind of hive mind, sort of, you know, something else operating through us. And where does our soul go? It's like, you know, but if some people want that, like, I'm sort of like, hey, I'm not here to present an agenda like, no, if you don't think like I do, something's wrong with you. I'm just saying, for people that don't think that looks very good, there's a whole other world. Transhumanism is, how can artificial intelligence sound good? Even that word alone, when we have organic, ingrained, innate wisdom, intelligence. We have DNA, diamond sun DNA, 12-strand and beyond, that is just waiting to be unlocked. Why would we want to give that away to something that's going to run us and control us and use us to create some sort of advanced utopian culture, when basically the history of artificial intelligence systems has destroyed all biological life till there's nothing? You know, we got to look at, like, so many people are being convinced that this is a great idea because it looks good, because, oh, you know, look at these advanced technologies. Yes, it's great, but how can we balance technology based on sound, color, and frequency versus mind control with our soul and spiritual development? And if we can't, you know, step back and say, wait a second, even though that all sounds good, like, oh yeah, transhumanism, you can heal all this stuff and, like, take care of all the stuff on the planet. Well, those are the ones that took all that away from us. And the only reason they're giving it back is because they're going to own us in the process, when we already have the ability to do that ourselves. So can't we just remind ourselves that we're masters and sailors of our own ship? Why do we want to be a part when we can have unity consciousness that represents appreciating oneness as diversity and harmony, instead of us all thinking the same and becoming a robot, machine, cyborg, like, you know? And if people want that because they're like, well, I don't really like thinking for myself. I don't want to go to the dark night of the soul. Great. You're on that timeline. Other people are on a different one. So each their own. I mean, we all deserve the right to make a choice, right? I don't judge anybody for going in that other direction, but they need to know that direction is not the only thing that exists, you know? And I don't have any, like, it's just, you know, I'm in a presidential bloodline, right? It's like, you got all these people that have been presidents before, they're saying this and that influence humanity. You know, this is a strong bloodline that has a really important message, and it's like, we don't have to go there. Part of you. We're a part of humanity. We only represent, I think, a deeper cry that most souls feel. They just want to feel safe, protected, and, like, you know, their uniqueness offers something to the world without The difference is having to, separate us to the point where we have to merge with a machine because our emotions get in the way. And this is what I'm seeing on Facebook. So it's like, yeah, I can understand why people want to go in transhumanism. It's like these arguments are so annoying. I'm just like, God. I mean, I get jealous of roadkill. I'm like, yep, you guys are smart. You just figured out how to. But no, I would never take myself out. It's just the preservation of the human soul, I think, is important. I mean, because it's connected to nature and all the elements. So if people hate Mother Earth and hate nature and they want something else to run them, yeah, go to that agenda. But we don't need those advanced technologies because we are the advanced technology. And there are advanced technologies that can help to wake us up. But there are very damaging technologies that can digress us. And we've got to know the difference in which races are connected to what. And that's kind of what I'm trying to present to the world and what I've been researching.
Getting back to President Trump, what do you think he knows about Mars? Do you think he's broken down on the alien agenda, on Mars, on the fact that there has been colonization there? What do you think he knows about that? Or does he even care?
I don't think he really knows much. I mean, or he just isn't a warrior if he does know it. The minute you know it and you don't talk about it and you don't blow the god darn whistle, it's not being a martyr to blow the whistle. Like, oh, I'm going to put my life on the line to just share this stuff. It's like, there's no way I could be in Trump's body in the position of presidency and know that stuff is going on and not be able to blast it out to the human population. But he is definitely focused on busting something that needs to be busted, I think. Or I at least hold space for that or pray for it. I don't think he knows all that. And if he does, I think he's being very methodical about how he presents it to people, I mean, Eisenhower was in that dilemma. How do you present this to people? Especially if it's been in the works for thousands and thousands of years. And, it's like all of a sudden in people's face. And again, I personally don't think that people need to wait around to be ready. How does any leader think that we need to wait around to be ready when we've been so abused and so messed up with? People are starving for the truth. So I think if he really knew and he was really on top of things, he would share. So I don't think he knows it all, but I think he's going to, and he's going to maybe do something positive with it. But, I'm not a person that supports anybody until I really sense that they're on board. Until then, I just sort of like hold it at arm's length and I just observe, crossing my fingers. I can't imagine being in that position. It's like, yeah, I can show up at events and blow whistles here and there, but gosh, if I had the whole of humanity, or at least the United States, because that's what a president runs, like if I was up against that dilemma, yeah, I might have to leak it slowly but surely. But yeah, I really do feel he's not a part of the cabal. He's just sort of not like the most stellar human as far as his character, but I don't think he's wrapped up in that stuff. And I was just glad that Hillary didn't win. So I think, it's a work in progress. I think, right now, just hearing him say that is like progress. Where that's going to go, let's all have our eyes on it. We already know disclosures happen. We already know about the secret space program. We already know this other stuff's going on. We can easily jump into any conversation and say, well, he mentioned that, but check this out. What do you think of this? I think he's kind of doing the sort of warm-up massage, like, oh, let's just beat on your back a little bit, warm up the muscles, and that he might be very receptive for the stuff that we have been doing to kind of come through. But how can you just, like, start off too hard and too fast? So I'm holding that faith, but no, I'm not like, I don't have fixed beliefs to the point where, God, anybody who doesn't like Trump, and I'm like, how dare you not like him? It's like, I don't have fixed beliefs. I'm just like, okay, fingers crossed. Okay, it could turn this way, it could turn that way. But what can I do to turn it in the right direction? I can hold, positive energy and focused intent and, send him telepathic vibes of, come on.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this then, because obviously, if there is a secret space program, and I am leaning towards the fact that there is, I've never really strayed off of that on this show, that I do believe there is one. he would have to know, Laura, that there is something in existence. You know, I mean, the trillions of dollars that go missing, which seems to be on an annual basis in the military budget, you know, that is unaccounted for, you know, coming up with the Space Force. Somebody must have tipped him off to what is out there.
Even beyond anybody tipping him off, anybody in their right mind should be able to follow these clues and see this. You know? Well, not maybe anybody, but yeah, especially somebody in his position. But what's different about him is, you know, he came in as a businessman, somebody who's like, you know, kind of like vulnerable. I won't say innocent because clearly he's got his stuff to work on. But like, he has not been immersed in this particular field, right? He's just been influential as far as like the way he yields money and, you know, power. And then all of a sudden he's in this more political situation where, oh my gosh, once that gets blown open, what does that do? So they might realize, oh, well, this is an easy person to just give him a little bit and he'll think that that's all there is, but yet there's so much more. I don't know if he's the kind of person that can think that far ahead or that deeply into things. Some people can't. I mean, most of the human population don't ask, where are my tax dollars going to? He seems like a normal citizen that just learned how to win the lottery over and over, metaphorically speaking, and that he's kind of a newbie, but I could be wrong. And if he has been totally briefed, I'm just praying that he has enough integrity to help walk people into the truth instead of use the limiting things that he's sharing to allow something to compromise us further. You would think he would know, though, but at the same time, I just feel like he's so focused on, look at the empire I'm building, look at the hotels, look at the, you know, and it's like, what? Secret space program? It's like, no, let's just tell Trump that we need a space force. And then when it's time to disclose the secret space program, they can give them just one layer of that secret space program that is connected to only a few control agendas that are, you know, it's like, I just think he's very vulnerable and easily used.
Okay, well, by saying this, would he not have to know that there is some sort of aircraft or, sorry, trying to kill another mosquito, wouldn't he have to know that there is some sort of aircraft or technology that goes well beyond the rockets that we see Elon Musk landing with the SpaceX program, which is impressive nonetheless? But wouldn't he have to know about that to make this announcement? You know, and if so, where are they hiding all of these aircraft on this planet? Sure, there's plenty of hiding spots, you know, but I don't think that with the amount of people who are hovering around Area 51 on a daily basis, I don't think they'd be keeping them in the Nevada desert anymore.
The presidents are the least briefed people until they actually make real contact. So Eisenhower had contact with a number of different races, right? But yet Area 51 was out of control, and he issued a attack or all right, let's invade this because we're not getting any information. NJ-12 has taken over all the alien technology and all this sort of stuff, and the president is further and further in the dark. So he tried to do something about it. Anybody can Google Richard Dolan interviewing Anonymous is the name, and he talks about this. So imagine, like, okay, now here's Trump. Are they really going to totally brief him? Kennedy got briefed about the alien situation. He got assassinated. When Eisenhower got briefed, he couldn't do anything really until his final speech. And yeah, I mean, that didn't leave like anything less than scars for doing it. So here's Trump, and you would think, yeah, he might be briefed. It seems all obvious, you know, looking at the history, looking at the shows and the movies and the things that are just staring at you in the face. So, you know, it's one of those things that you just got to kind of keep your eye on. I mean, I don't have a real answer except for a flexible outlook, you know, okay, I'm just kind of tracking it like, okay. And I have the same kind of questions that you have. But for me to be able to say, oh, I know the answer to it would probably be either arrogant or that I was totally clued in. And I don't get that kind of intel. I'm not one of those people that, you know, get all the intel. I do get downloads from the universe, and I do have an intuition, of course, but
Well, we got about 90 seconds here before we have to go to break. Let me ask you this then. When they were going to take you to Mars, where were they going to launch you from? Did they tell you?
No, but they have their spots. It's like, they're not going to tell me much.
Is it a jump
room? All they
room?
needed was for me. Well, what they said was they were called arcs, right? And after, Andy Bishago and I collaborated and, he basically said in Project Pegasus that they told him about me before I was born and that I was pre-targeted to come into this whole Mars mission. And he speaks about it publicly. You can Google it. It's everywhere. It's in a lot of things that he shared. So he was the jump room thing, and I was more briefed or told about going on ARC, A-R-C. And then he said that's an acronym that means something I can't remember, like aeronautical schwammer. But we were going to go off in some crafts that weren't teleportation crafts. But, maybe they were referring to a teleportation room. They didn't tell me when or where. They just, And so then I was thinking, with this lack of detail, is there even a Mars agenda or even a mission? I mean, am I just being screwed with? You have to consider all factors. I think the biggest danger in the times that we're in is when we create fixed beliefs. I think we just need to really exercise our wisdom and our discernment and, be transparent and true to all of this. But the minute we just determine a little bit of information must be the truth without seeing the full picture, we get into trouble because we're not there yet. As much as we want to be advanced, it's like, I'm not a false prophet. I'm not somebody who has all the answers, I'm just trying to figure it out too, like anybody else. Yeah, I have had those past lives too that were really way better as far as being more advanced, but that was then, this is now, and I'm trying like everybody else to just get back. And I think the best way we can get back is just to constantly just be detective-like and just look at all the information, all the facts, and with love and respect, you can pull the information together and see what kind of breakthroughs that we can experience. But we're not going to have the same kind of breakthroughs if we're attached to a different outcome. I mean, for me, I just want sovereignty.
Laura, I got to cut you off right there. We got to go to our second break of the night. Laura Eisenhower is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking Mars, secret space program, Space Force. We got her for another 30 minutes before we get into the encounter at the bottom of the hour with Everett Themer. We'll be back with more Laura Eisenhower right after this. Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We're lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
From the mile-high state of Colorado, sharing our signal around the world, I invite you to Spaced Out Sundays. Hi, I'm Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm closing out the week by taking you on a paranormal journey to the world of the weird. Ghosts, aliens, psychic phenomena, I will hit it all in your questions too. So let us highlight the paranormal for you. So come join me for Spaced Out Sundays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Well, I lathered myself up in about 6 pounds of Anti-Bite, or afterbite from mosquitoes. Holy cow, are the mosquitoes terrible right here, right now. Terrible. Nonetheless, we still got a show to do. 1 hour left in Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us in the final hour. I am your host, Dave Scott. And tomorrow night on the program, Michael Huntington will be with us. We'll talk about his paranormal travels, his investigations into ghosts, Bigfoot, aliens, so much more, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network, including the Fringe FM. And don't forget, our archives are free on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell is absent tonight, but AdNome has stepped up with the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Gnome. Gnome is your password. Be sure to use it wisely, Space Travelers, as, well, usually Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we got a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, or watch great videos from UFO Seekers, Contact TV, and so much more. For the final time tonight, I introduced Laura Eisenhower as our guest. She is the great-granddaughter of President Dwight Eisenhower. She has been recruited for Mars. She's a secret space program expert. She is studying the Space Force. That was just released as well. We welcome back Laura. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
So I have a friend that just really wants me to say a shout out to Michael Bradford. Anyway, I did it. All right, so I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Good to have you with us. I am dying
Thanks for
here.
having me.
I have donated more blood to mosquitoes this year than probably my entire life.
Oh,
And the thing is, I've killed probably like 30 or 40 of the bastards today, too. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. You know?
well, I mean, it just
dying.
represents what a warrior you are. I mean, it's just the micro part of the larger story that we deal with. I mean, what are all these different dark agendas? They're just a bunch of freaking mosquitoes that want to draw our blood and our life force, right? And here you are in warrior mode, just doing all you can to ward it off while we talk about it. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So, you know, you always triumph because you're a truth person. But yeah, it's like when we look at nature and the insects and the predators and the creatures, it's like, it's amazing. And how can we not imagine that it exists in dimensions beyond our understanding, which we're beginning to understand?
Well, I think there was another mosquito hatch here. I think that's what it comes down to, is there was another mosquito hatch, because last week was kind of damp, and I think they all went, oh, let's breed again and torture the people. Oh, it's driving me nuts. I am so itchy right now. So itchy. Son of a gun.
What is up with this, like, free will universe, like, needs to torture people? It's like this, like, feeding off of other people's torture and pain. Like, what? That's what free will creates. You know, free will is a really interesting experiment. Like, what happens if we're in the free will universe? Oh, wow, the masculine and the feminine will differentiate. And, yeah, you'll be invaded by a warring race that will, you know, I know that you haven't even asked me a question yet, so I'm going to be quiet.
No problem. Hey, I wanted to ask you about the Greada Treaty that allegedly your great-grandfather signed with extraterrestrials. Now, we've had Dr. Michael Salla come on this show and discuss it. Says it is very real. It is very much the truth of what happened. However, there are some details that are up in the air regarding the secret space program, or not, pardon me, the Greada Treaty. How truthful is this, and how did you find out about it?
Okay, the first part was a little muffled. I guess that you're wondering how I found out about the Greada Treaty, but what was the first part of what you shared?
How do we know it's true?
Well, you know, this is where I sort of go into the need to open our minds up to all sorts of things without having fixed beliefs. But, you know, when there's enough whistleblowers, when there's enough evidence, you know, I mean, I almost feel like as a Libra Scorpio, like oh my gosh, I'm driven towards balance, and I'm a detective to get to the balance, right? So I'm not saying I'm an expert, but, you know, it's very kind of sentimental. It's like, okay, my family's involved. What is this? What is that? And I would probably be curious regardless. The Grata Treaty, you know, it's been around for a while. It actually started with Winston Churchill, Aleister Crowley, and Hitler. And it just ended up feeding on that mindset of, like, you know, I think just like anything, it started off with a well-intentioned agenda, like, oh, we just want racial purity. We just seeing this and seeing that. And it's like, okay, well, now this demonic force is coming in and wanting to assist you in that mindset, which was maybe indoctrinated by, like, Aleister Crowley's influence in the timelines, because he was an Atlantean solar overlord that just, like, turned to the dark side. And there's things that turn to the dark side that people wouldn't want to know because they're channeling them. They're like, oh, Thoth, oh, Archangel Michael. It's like, people have no idea what has happened to some of those energies. It doesn't mean that the higher aspects of those energies are still pure. But when you step it down into this human dimension, they get really messed with. And so the origins of the Grata Treaty actually began with, I think it began even before these guys. But the pinnacle, the high point of it, and I have sources that are connected to Lisa Renee and the Guardians and, like, you know, other validating sources. It's like, I don't quote any source when it comes to this sort of serious stuff unless I'm really sure, because I was exposing stuff before I knew this information that did not make Eisenhower look good. It did not matter that I was his, you know, descendant. It was just like, I'm here for truth, you know, but I also forgive him and I love him, right? But then I was like, something's missing. I know there's more to the story, right? And then I became really good friends with Lisa Renee from energeticsynthesis.com, who has this thing online called the Ascension Glossary. If anybody Googles Secret Space Program, you're going to get a major download. Take it or leave it. You know, I'm not here to push beliefs on anyone, but I would love to offer information for people to ponder to see, you know, what that does for you, honoring your sovereignty and process. But basically, when I read this, it really struck a chord. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even believe this. This totally makes sense. Because there's, you know, when I was first researching it, it was like, oh, Eisenhower sold us out to the Greys and blah, 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 blah. He could have taken a deal with the Nordics. Well, the Nordics, many of the Nordics were, you know, working with Hitler. And yeah, maybe that changed and maybe that was just a faction of it, right? I mean, we can't say we see all white people as being assholes just because of what happened to Native Americans. I mean, you know, sometimes we have to go through all these different incarnations too and wear all these different hats. Like, oh, I was a Native American. Oh, I was this. I was an enslaved, you know, African American. Like, so that we can come to this conclusion in this time where it's just like, wow, do we have to pick and choose anymore? Can we just recognize that we're meant to work together? But anyway, the Grata Treaty originated way before Eisenhower. And a lot has been put on him as being the one that started this whole mess. And that's absolutely not the case. I used to think it was. And I did presentations that were like, okay, yeah, this stuff needs to come out. And, oh, well, yeah, it's awkward and uncomfortable. But, like, you know, I know his heart was in the right place. And it was like, what, a big mistake, whatever. But further research, it's like, wow, you know, and then you know, go all the way back to, gosh, you know, when these negative dark technologies were put in place, this rulership, Babylon, whatever, you know, when the Illuminati and the 13 families, like, took over the 13th gate of the Mother Ark that was not able to be grounded into the earth body. So it created all these reversals and all this manipulation, right, in religion and politics and all these false stories. We had the electrical wars, the Lemurian Holocaust, the Atlantean cataclysms, and the Egyptian Sumerian wars. It's like, in all these world wars, the mother energy was not able to be grounded in the physical planet. It was just too painful and traumatizing. But her intention has always been, you know, she's an unconditionally loving source energy that inhabits the planetary frequency consciousness that manifests itself in nature. But nature looks kind of harsh. It's like, why are all these animals, like, devouring other animals? And why are we all confused about, should we be vegan? Should we not be vegan? You know, but it's still a part of our soul to die, decay, rebirth, regenerate. Like, we never die. But we've been missing our mother, who actually wants to bring harmony and change the dynamic of victim-predator, which has been, you know, the basis of duality. So when we look at the tree of knowledge, we chose the tree of knowledge because we weren't getting the full picture. We were getting like this sort of, oh yeah, you know, Genesis version. It's like, no, there's a deeper history. But we chose the tree of good and evil to be able to dig deeper and just like realize, you know, through duality, we can learn what we're made of. But a lot of people, you know, take duality and they lose their mind and they, you know, end up digressing. And I don't want to digress, but I lose my mind just because, oh my God, this is like so crazy. You know, but that, you know, everybody has their own version of losing their mind. And don't worry, I haven't lost my mind. And I know I'm talking too much. So anyway.
In regards to the alien species that President Eisenhower met with, there is all sorts of stories and rhetoric about how that went down, from him meeting one species to two species to 5 different species. What do you know to be the truth on that?
Well, it's hard because it's not like, you know, I'm getting the family like, oh yeah, open the vault. This is the truth. I've had to do a lot of research and investigate a lot of different whistleblowers. What I've gotten is like at least 4, starting with the Nordics and the Greys, and then different representatives of like the reptoids and blah, blah, blah. Some of the people that were investigating this said some of them were future human selves that had time traveled back, saying that they were a dying race and that they needed us to help them to rehabilitate. And it was basically like, we'll only abduct a few and we'll give you the names and we won't harm them and, you know, it'll all be good. And supposedly it went out of control. But that's not necessarily like what went down, right? That's the hard part, you know, when you're trying to recall things in history. Then Alex Collier, he said that it wasn't even Eisenhower, it was a higher unit of the NSA, which was called the Blue Moon Unit, I think it is. And I show that in my presentations where he said that this higher level of the NSA, most people in the NSA don't even know exists. The Blue Unit, or something like that. And they were the ones that did the deal. So they used Eisenhower as a scapegoat. But then I'm like, well, why would Gerald Light and all these others that were supposedly witness to it say that, you know, he was there? But a few of them say, you know, he was there, but he wanted to disclose it. He wanted to, you know, tell everybody. And it was shut down. And then, you know, it's like, how much conflicting information can we possibly handle on a mental level without being like, oh my God, right? So I'm just like, okay, I'm seeing all these different things. And yes, I'm trying to breathe and meditate and like get into my center. Like, what is your psychic energy telling you? What is the truth here? So all I can do is just present it all and be like, hey, you know, you guys decide. I don't know. I mean, I do know. All I know is that I was raised in this family. I mean, this is like hardcore love, unity, consciousness family. Anything else is like either like a big whoops, or we had no choice, or the whole picture is not being presented to the public. And whatever you can Google is not like the full real deal. So when I went into Lisa Renee and her information is like so mind-blowing that when you realize what she's sharing about all these other things that have nothing to do with what we're talking about that are so profound, and then you run into the fact that she's covering the secret space program and what like Eisenhower's up against and how accurate she is as far as like at least my nervous system. I'm like, oh, finally somebody like gets it. Yeah, it's really worth people checking out. So if you Google Ascension Glossary, Secret Space Program, you're going to get a lot. Eisenhower had a lot to do with setting up the secret space programs, but he was not able to monitor it or manage it because he was tasked with doing like the 3D presidential stuff with like economy, budget, you know. So it's a very interesting story. And that's what I present. A combination of what I've gotten from her, like validating what my intuition knew, and just my own personal story. And I just think it's really worthwhile because, it's nothing to be afraid of. The things that have let us down are the things that are pushing us into liberation and being sovereign and relying on ourselves and each other, right? We don't have to feel so betrayed. I mean, even though it's betrayal, what is the other side of it? Like, we have each other, right? That's at least what I'm grateful for.
Well, I think the big thing is with a lot of people is they just want to know the truth. Did it happen? Did it not happen? Right? And why the big secrecy about it? What are they holding back that maybe mankind should know about?
Exactly. And I've been saying this for so long. It's not about disclosure. Oh, ETs exist. What disclosure is to me is why have we been kept in the dark for this long? And is disclosure about now we're disclosing the alien thing because now we're going to run an alien government and you guys are all more enslaved than you ever were? What has the secrecy been about? Because they've been building a foundation of control that they don't want us to know about. And when they finally disclose it, it's because we're already pretty screwed, right? But it didn't work out that way. We've had voices and been exposing truth since, God, at least I started in 2006. And I know people have been starting earlier than that, right? And that's supposed to be the place that people start to catch on. Don't ride that other timeline of, matrix-controlled disclosure where it leads you into more compromised place. Listen to the people. Listen to the stories, right? And we've been at it since before that peak time in 2012, which was my goal since I was a kid. If this stuff doesn't come out till before 2012, yeah, I felt this doom gloom, in my nervous system. I can't breathe. I can't function. So I don't care how loud I have to get. There's nothing about my mission that isn't life or death. This isn't I just really want to posture no, I'm not like that at all. I'm this is freaking life or death. And I think we're going to all be okay. And even if we weren't, I don't know, I feel connected to the unconditional love of spirit that will never, ever, ever, ever give up on anyone or ever let anybody just fall into that trap. And I don't care, I'm a mom in physical reality. And I feel the same way for my kids. And, I'm not saying I'm this big global mama, but I certainly have the intention to protect this humanity with everything I got. And if it kills me along the way, I don't give a flying fritter. See,
good control there.
I totally know how to not cut. I just don't care. It's this. I can't live without just holding that kind of protection. But everybody's free to do what they want. And you're a protector. All these other people are protectors. What are we protecting? What we're protecting is the ability to think. Giving everybody that right to be a free thinker. Doesn't mean we need to control what people take from it, or this interview. Do what you want with it. But it's that commitment to create or, offer that resource. At least, that's kind of what I think. I don't, I'm not looking for fans. I'm not looking for oh, wow, everything she said. It's no, I just want to throw this perspective out there because I think it's going to just, I don't know, maybe help. And if not, discard it. But my goal is how can you get closer to who you are? It's that's why I love what I do for a living as an astrologer, because there's so many dimensions to astrology. And no, we're not limited to the astrological elements and their alignments, but my goal is how can we liberate somebody from the time wheel, from these forces holding a person back? How can we utilize this map to find the treasure chest? Because of course astrology is going to be somewhat of an adventure. How can we get to the goal and just find the treasure and just be free and be in the 0 point unified field? If people don't want to go there, no big deal, but I'm certainly going to let it haunt my world. And I think that's what a lot of empaths do, which I used to do. Oh my God, if you guys don't wake up, I'm fucked, you're fucked, we're all, oops, no, I can't. Whoops.
Oops.
Am I in trouble?
Oops. I think we're past 11
You know
o'clock. We're past 11 o'clock. So if it slips out, we can say oops.
Okay. But I guess my goal as an astrologer is, with all that in mind, like, how can we just liberate ourselves? And, some people are like, yeah, I'm not ready. So, yeah, but it's still available. We can be really sick, but our immune systems never give up on us. We might turn in the other direction and do things that compromise our relationship to it. But, to me, the immune system is metaphorically connected to spirit. It's that one thing that can make everything better. And the minute we turn our back from it, we start to really suffer and struggle. The minute we recognize it's unconditional love, we begin to heal. And everybody has a right to that connection. And we're all at different stages and recognizing that that's available. There's so many belief systems and lower creator gods that have taught us otherwise, like punishment and we just don't know how to heal.
Do you think that the truth will ever come out? Because the way I look at it, Laura, is there is a giant Pandora's box that would need to be opened, and the secrets to the deepest secrets of the United States would have to come out and to fruition. I mean, maybe it includes names and lists of names of people who've been abducted, taken and never come back. Whether it's for, the purposes of establishing colonies on Mars or wherever, or, whether they have become a science experiment for certain races of extraterrestrials. I think there is a big Pandora's box that needs to be opened with this that the government really doesn't want to let loose. And if they do it in time, which it seems like they're starting to set up, then all of a sudden, they can not give away the secrets that they hold so dearly. What is your opinion on that?
So you're saying if the Pandora's box was open, they would control it even further?
No, I think the people would probably have some civil unrest, if not a lot. I mean, if you want to drain the swamp, that's the way to do it.
Well, to me, I think we've been living in that open Pandora's box where the 7 deadly sins have been permeating, when the 7 levels of wisdom, those 7 levels of wisdom is like almost the alchemical result of being able to walk through those 7 deadly sins. It's like, we look at all the characteristics of those energies, like what can we do within ourselves to begin to connect with the 7 levels of virtue and wisdom, connect to Sophia, but it sounds like a person, right? But this is a part of our, if you look at a lot of the divine feminine archetypes, they always go into the underworld. They're always dealing with the gatekeepers of the 7 levels of sin, because Pandora's box already got open, and they start to transmute it into the 7 levels of wisdom, or the 7 something of wisdom. So this new Pandora's box is being opened, right? Like you're saying. And people are going to have to, step into their alchemical awareness. Like, how can you transmute that? How can you flip that coin over? When you're depressed, do you just stay stuck in it and just give your power away and go on medication? Or do you recognize that something is showing up to give you a message about what your deeper soul longing is all about? What really matters to you? Why are you sad? It's like, instead of thinking it's a problem, look at it like a piece of you that wants to be heard, that has a really big role to play. That's what I've learned to do to transform my freaking Pandora's box. It's like, why am I angry? Why am I depressed? Why? What? Like, oh, this is your passion. Oh, this is your soul calling. And no, a carrot's not being waved in front of all of our faces to make us feel like crap. It's waving it in front of our faces to inspire us to get to the other side and turn that Pandora's box around, because the 7 sins or whatever are the 7 colors of wisdom. And that's why sin is such an illusion, because we have the opportunity to see a different road. But when we look at the structure of our government, it's like they hold you so accountable to just those little human errors while they're able to get away with the most heinous crimes. So it's like, sorry, folks, it's not going to happen anymore. And even if some of us have to sit in a prison for some time, we still have that ability because we're connected to like source energy. We're connected to our spirit. We're connected to our heart. And, you know, if we pay too much of attention to how our storyline's playing out and we judge ourselves or think like through the eyes of society, then we think in terms of duality. Oh, I fail. I lose. I'm successful. I'm a loser. I'm a failure. It's like, no. If we can drop looking at ourselves through the lens of society and look at ourselves as like being in a process of ultimate soul development, we're going to reach places that we can't even imagine. Like, I mean, I recognize myself most in my times of adversity. And in my times of success, I don't feel worthy of it. So, yeah, I'm working on that one, but whatever. I'm just saying, like, you know, the ego's involved. The ego is sort of the compass. Like, can the ego integrate into the higher self instead of, like, trying to, like, run the show and suppress all that stuff and, like, you know, fall into belief systems that they're not even, like, really sure about, but they need to be sure about because of some sort of wound dictating their need to believe in something. And I get that. Like, I'm like so hardcore wounded. Who isn't? I mean,
right.
But I just don't want to end up the very thing that has hurt me. I don't want to be that tyrannical control freak.
I get you. Laura Eisenhower, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio again. Let's make it less than 3 years. How about that?
Oh my God, you would have me again?
Yeah, why not? I like you.
I like you too.
All right.
And
All right.
you.
Laura, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. Really appreciate it. We're going to do this again soon.
Awesome. Bye.
All right. Good night. Coming up next, Everett Themer with The Encounter. Once again, every night at this time, we enter The Encounter with Everett Themer as we take a look around the world at the news of the day. The news is always changing, and that's why we bring it to you, the strange and the weird, the stories that you missed out on at 6 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Everett Themer, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. Dude, I got to start on a little bit of a rant, if you don't mind. I need to rant. All right. Where's Everett? We got to find Everett here. Everett, we're having a bad connection. I'm going to dial up your cell phone. We got a bad Skype connection. I'm going to dial up your cell phone here because we kind of have to. Give me a second here, audience. There we go. I'm going to call in the newsie. You know he's got his news hat on. You know he's got his news hat on. Definitely. Everett, do we got you now?
Oh, you have me.
All right. I got to start off with a rant here, dude. I do. So, cool. There is this dude, okay? In my town, you know, they have one of those Facebook groups that you know, it's called a rant and rave. So, once again, every summer our town gets jacked around because we are a destination town. Our town gets jacked around on gas prices, okay? And it's just ridiculous. So people are bitching and complaining about the gas prices around here, and they're pretty high up here right now. They're about $1.44 a liter, okay? To put that in gallons, you're looking at about, gas is expensive here. It's like $5.75 a gallon here. Or maybe $6 around there, all right? So anyways, my daughter, who's 15 years old, straight A student, very smart, intelligent kid, basically makes a legitimate comment. So this dude named Ross, and I'm not going to give his last name here, this dude named Ross, and looking at him, I mean, he's sporting a handlebar mustache. Okay, like I like good facial hair. I make no bones about it. But who in this day still wears a handlebar mustache? I mean, let's be serious here for a second. Right? Unless you're a new version of the new singer of the Village People or something like that. Anyhow, so this guy decides to call my daughter a dumbass once, twice. Then he says that, later on in this, that you won't make it far from the grease bin at Dairy Queen. You're smart like a rock, little girl. Who does this? Seriously, who does this?
Somebody who has some serious self-esteem issues.
Yes. It's ridiculous. So I responded. I said, do you feel like a man calling a teenage girl who is a straight-A student a dumbass and smart like a rock? I said, get your head out of your ass and grow up. Yeah, I'm her dad. Picking on a 15-year-old girl who makes sense shows your real lack of intelligence. I hope you feel better about yourself. Good job. Like, what an idiot.
Did he come back with anything?
No, he hasn't responded yet. He hasn't responded. And you know what the funny part about this is? I scoped his profile. I trolled his profile. And this dude is a volunteer firefighter here. He has a picture on his profile of him posing near the cenotaph in uniform. I want to find out what fire department he works for. And I'm going to call the chief. And I'm going to say, do you usually allow your volunteers to insult 15 and bully 15-year-old girls online?
Yeah, that's really bad. I mean, even though he is a volunteer, he is representing, whether it be a fire protection district or the city or a municipality. He is representing them, and to be a cyberbully,
that's my next
how
comment.
Low can you go?
That's my next comment. I'm going to wait for this jerk to respond. I'm going to totally wait for this jerk to respond. And I'm going to have to have that fatherly talk with the daughter and just say, just drop it all. Daddy will take care of it from here. Right?
But do you think a keyboard warrior like that is going to respond, or
I don't know, dude.
Been confronted?
No idea. He, looking at him, he's a pretty big dude. I scoped out his other pictures. He's a big dude. Big dude. Okay? He's got a nice Harley Davidson, too. But nonetheless, and he's a logger, so the guy can throw him and drink a lot of beer. But that handlebar mustache, I mean, come on. It's 2018. It's 2018. Diet blonde, he looks like Hulk Hogan from the NWO days.
Hey, there was a period of time where, and this was recently, where I had considered growing a handlebar mustache just because I wanted to see if I could do it. I even had the little package of mustache wax.
Okay.
So I could point those ends out.
I'll leave the mustache out of it, okay? I will leave the mustache out of it. Right?
I'd like to see you in a handlebar mustache.
So just so you know, there's a little bit of chat in the chat rooms here, okay? My daughter did disclose that she was a 15-year-old girl, and he continued on. So I'll read you the quote. Here. Let's see. After she makes the comment and he calls her a dumbass the first time, she says, I don't think it's appropriate to be calling a 15-year-old girl a dumbass. It's unfair for locals, but this is how business works. Then he says, very inappropriate, you dumbass. And then she got a little snarky, but she kept it, she kept cool. She kept calm. Actually, I was very impressed with her words because, she wasn't acting teenagerish. You know what I'm saying? She was actually trying to make sense because she's learning about driving. She's all excited about getting, her learner's license in February. So she's very, very studious. All right. So she basically, he keeps insulting her. And, I don't want to go too much further into this, but I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if you're a grown man, With all the problems we got going on in this world, you don't bully a 15-year-old girl and then continue to be bait her into an insult fest. You know what I'm saying? Like his last comment was, "You little girl are smart like rock. Good luck in the real world. You won't make it far from the grease bin at Dairy Queen." She goes, "Ah, thank you. Means so much to me. But it's okay, because unlike you being called something or being something called a bully, I have standards and goals and do amazing in school. Have fun watching me get my diploma. Hope your kids have the best in life and don't turn out to be a selfish prick like you are." Oh, that's my daughter. I love her. I love her.
That is a fantastic response.
Fantastic response. It is a fantastic response. I tell you, biologically, she's not mine, but the apple hasn't fallen far from this tree.
But what's it say about a person of authority who's knowingly bullying a teenager?
I agree. And like I said, tomorrow, if he responds, I'm going to find out, because I got friends at the fire hall up here in the 108 where I live. I am going to actually find out which fire hall he's at, because if he continues this, I'm going to lodge a complaint with his fire chief. And if he happens to be the fire chief, I'll go to the city. You don't pick on a 15-year-old girl.
Honestly, in this day and age of cyberbullying, with his position, I would almost lodge a complaint now. It's beyond little barbs back and forth. There's definitely some intent to cause some sort of emotional pain.
Exactly.
I would do something else first, or at least it would cross my mind, but I would go and lodge a complaint now. Why put up with more? Why accept more? That's part of the problem.
Because now I'm baiting him. And I'll go on record on that. I want him to take the shot at me, because I want to give him the shot now of saying, as a hero firefighter in this town, you're looking like a real asshole, pardon my language, for picking on a 15-year-old girl.
He's a public figure in your town. I would just call him out by name.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where it goes. Let's get to the news here, buddy.
All right. I don't even know what to say about this, but it says something about social media. A forest ranger in West Bengal was nearly strangled when he posed for a selfie with a 90-pound python that he had just captured. He was called to this village, and I guess this thing was wandering or slithering around town, and he was able to wrangle it, but instead of killing it or bagging it or however they handle wild animals like that in India, he wrapped it around his neck and took a selfie.
Why?
Within seconds. The thing is, within seconds, the crowd around him could see that it had coiled around his neck and was choking him. And he later made the comment, after a couple people helped to get it off him, that he was never scared. Because if he had gotten scared, that could have meant death. So they got it off of him, and he almost immediately posted his picture with the snake around him on Facebook. And
of course,
the thing is, of course. But the thing is that this comes days after there was another python in the village. It was hunted down. It had swallowed a woman who was out gardening whole. And they found the snake bloated and on the outskirts of the village, and they captured it and they cut it open, and they found this woman's body in the snake, her entire body.
That's terrible.
First of all, I don't know if I've ever seen a snake big enough that could swallow an entire person. And if they're out there, Who wraps one around their neck for a picture on social media?
You know, it's the stupid things that people will do, you know, for the attention of a few blue thumbs up. It's ridiculous. You know, it's like these preachers going into alligator-infested waters and saying, you know what, I am so protected by God, I am not going to be attacked. And then the crocodile says, well, I am protected by God too, and he wants me to feed.
That's terrible.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing, dude. It is the exact same thing.
You're right. Everybody wants that little bit of attention, but to literally risk your life for that attention, for one picture, there has to be a little bit something wrong with you.
Yeah, I agree. Just so you know, the audience knows, because I know I'm getting a few people asking, I have screenshotted that this guy's comments. So if he does erase them, I got him.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm that guy. All right, let's go on to another story here, because we got about 5 minutes before we got to get to the thought of the Dave.
What do you think causes earthquakes?
Isn't it plates that move underground?
Or could it be Mexican football fans? And by football, I mean soccer?
Yes.
There were actually tremors recorded in Mexico City that the seismic agency down there had determined were artificial in nature, and they believed that they coincided with the winning goal that the Mexican team had at the World Cup in Russia, while a massive crowd of spectators were watching the game on big screen TVs in a square.
We have heard of this happening before with people. Apparently, it has happened in Seattle with the 12th man during a Seattle Seahawks game.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah. But it has happened before. You know, and we have had reports of aircraft causing minor earthquakes, especially flying through California after taking off out of Area 51. See, this is why soccer, I got to rant here again. This is why soccer is so dangerous. It's now causing earthquakes. It's already caused hooliganism. It's already caused fake diving and fake injuries and the pussification of men and real sport. This is why we got to ban soccer. This is why I cry when I drive by a soccer field and see children playing that horrid game. I don't care about the cost. I realize it's cheap. Basketball is cheap. Tennis is cheap. All right? Play tag. Hide and go seek. Okay? We got to get this soccer influence out of here. This is what's causing this planet problems. Soccer. The best day of the World Cup is the day it ends.
That's terrible. I just want somebody to explain these cards to me, these red cards and yellow cards.
I was watching soccer highlights today of injuries. This guy got flicked on the ear. Okay? Flicked on the ear.
How do you get injured in soccer?
You don't, because nobody ever touches you. You just roll around like you've been shot by, MS-13 has run up on you and gunned you down. It's ridiculous.
I guess if you trip and scrape your knee, that counts as an injury. But
the humanity.
I knew you'd love hearing about soccer today.
This just, coming off my rant from this idiot who is picking on my daughter online, this just grinds my gears even more. Grinds my gears. God, I hate
he's
soccer.
A soccer fan?
Oh, you know what? It looks like he would be a soccer fan.
Well, I don't know what to say to that. So do we have time for one more? Because I kind of mention to somebody.
Yeah, we could get into one more.
All right. How much of a bad boy are you going to be when you're in your 60s?
I'm going to be Pat Boone as bad as I want to be and record a metal album.
Okay, well, a Georgia grandmother strangled a rabid bobcat to death with her bare hands.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
This woman, Dee Dee Phillips, she had just put a bumper sticker on her truck, I guess that read, "Women who behave rarely make history." And she had backed up to take a picture to post on Facebook when the bobcat had crept into her yard. So as she's taking this picture, it crept up and approached her, and she turned around, and it took a couple of steps, and it jumped on her. And basically she pushed it away. It came at her again, so she wrapped her arm around its neck and choked it to death.
That is one tough lady, man. Good for her. Good for her.
I don't know that I could do that. I would probably go run screaming.
You know what? My grandmother is 90, dude, and she used to wrestle steers back in Vegreville, Alberta. Big Ukrainian husky lady, could cook like anything, but man, could she farm. My grandmother today will still punch me in the arm, and she's got those really, back then, men and women had giant hands because they worked hard for a living. And, you look at your grandparents' hands. I don't know how many of you have actually looked at your grandparents' hands, but usually if they grew up on a farm, their hands were big and strong. And my grandmother can still punch me in the arm, and it hurts, dude. It still hurts.
That's got to be a little bit intimidating, being hit by your grandmother and having it hurt.
Well, I'm telling you right now, when I go out, I could be as sarcastic as I want, because this is why I'll go take her to bingo, because when the old hen's hacked up and they, and the silver hairs start, giving you that dirty look if you're talking too much or you shuffle in your chair, I say, I'm going to sick grandma on you. I'm going to sick my grandma on you, because I know Graham can kick butt and take names here. She can't see very well anymore, but I'll tell you, I'm taking her in a fight. I'm taking my grandmother in a fight. I got the odds.
There is one thing we have to add to this, though.
Okay.
That is somewhat sad. She was scratched and possibly bit somewhat, and when the animal control tested the bobcat, it was rabid. So now she has to go through a series of anti-rabies vaccines.
Jeff Gear, the Desert Clam, posted a picture of her on Twitter. Yeah, that lady looks like she can kick some serious ass. Amy on the radio. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't, in my early 40s, think I would wrestle a bobcat to death.
No. I see a bobcat, I'm going the other way. We got bobcat, lynx, and mountain lions up here, man. We got the trifecta. And all three of them just want to hurt you. Amy on the radio says, Georgia grandmothers are some of the best grandmothers, at least, and they are rugged as hell. All right. Let's get to the thought of the day, Bev. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we post a question early on in the day, and then we wait for you guys to answer it on Twitter and on Facebook. So we're going to get to today's Thought of the Day, which the question was, do you think there are currently humans on the moon or Mars? Everett, there's a lot of people who are saying yes. Not just to the moon, but Mars. There's either some really strong tinfoil going around the crowds with this one, or people are seriously in belief that this is going on. What's your opinion on that, Ev?
I think that while there is a secret space program and things are going on, I just don't accept that we're on Mars yet. I just don't.
You're so negative, man. You're so negative.
Okay, I'm positive there aren't people on Mars.
Well, there you go. There you go. That's better. All right, let's get to some responses here. On Twitter, Danny says, yes, I believe we are already up there. Randy Kramer has been saying it for years. Loved him on your show, by the way. Thank you. This new Space Force is a means of ripping the disclosure Band-Aid off. They will pretend to rapidly invent technology to get there in just a few years. All right, Gregory says, well, Dave, I think the unacknowledged programs hidden for over 70 years have provided mankind, Greg, you're Canadian, gotta use people kind, with the opportunity and the technology to visit both Mars and the moon. Knowing this is one thing, proving it is another. Graham, not on this timeline, at least this time. There are said to be abandoned ancient outposts on the moon and old cities on Mars, but no signs of inhabitants or any life. Let's go over to Facebook here. John, a lot of people think we originally came from Mars, so if there are humans anywhere, it would be Mars, maybe living underground there. See, Everett, you got to look at the positives. Maybe people are living underground.
No. There.
Heartbreaking.
There would be some signs. The previous comment was right. We keep finding these bizarre-looking, I won't call them fake, but these weird things that are all ancient. Let's see something from last week. Let's see a tool shed.
What about a game of crokinole? Whatever happened? Nobody plays crokinole anymore.
What is that?
Oh, it's a horrible 60s, 70s game. Terrible.
Is it like cribbage?
I don't even know. I just remember my grandparents playing it. I can't remember it. Anyways, we got time for a couple more here. Robert Grand jumps in. I believe we have advanced anti-gravity craft for 70-plus years. I witnessed at least one type of these craft about 12-plus years ago. So it is plausible for us to be visiting and inhabiting our moon and Mars for a very long time. We're going to get to, let's see. Paul says, negative. Gary says, it wouldn't surprise me if they were there, at least on the moon. Tom, it is possible. We will only know for sure if someone tells us. Donna, if women are from Venus and men are from Mars, then there's got to be a lot of guys hanging out there. Oh, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. That might be a good place to leave this one off. Thank you to everybody participating. We'll have a new one up tomorrow morning. Everett Themer from the Encounter Online. Thank you so much. We will talk to you with the news tomorrow. And I apologize to you. Wouldn't be Canadian if I didn't. I apologize to you for cutting you off from your news section with my rant. I just had to get that out.
Oh, we'll bring you some news stories anyway tomorrow.
All right, I'll make extra time for you. Tomorrow night on the program, Michael Huntington joins us to talk about paranormal travels around the United States. Aliens, Bigfoot, ghosts, all on tap tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. Want to say thank you to Laura Eisenhower for a great interview tonight as she went 2.5 hours talking about the secret space program, Space Force, Mars, and so much more. It's a little out there, but I'm digging it. We'll have her back on. I know some of you may roll your eyes on that, but I like her. I think she's being truthful. At least her truth. But nonetheless truthful. Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of SOR, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Thank you to everybody listening at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. And a big thanks to everybody watching on Periscope.tv, on Spreaker. You guys were fantastic tonight. Everybody at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter, and the Veterans Club. Where were you, Bill Cardwell? The SOR Space Travelers on Facebook. Thank you for sharing the show. Thanks for helping us get bigger and better every single night. And thank you for demanding that, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. You guys have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night.
Waiting for you to break. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you